one woman file a lawsuit against Carroll County. So frivolous. This woman was ordered to thousands of dollars to the woman county. Did in fact write us before we released the transcript, claiming that the release would harm children. It would be a colossal error to rely on this woman's information or judgment. We didn't.
Hey y'all. Oh my god. Hey everybody. Welcome to my channel. I have a slightly different setup tonight, so if I am a little discombobulated, then it's pretty much, you know, if it ain't broke, or if it is broke, why fix it? So tonight I thought that we could talk about Carroll County. I know a little bit about Carroll County, and I know a lot about the months leading up to the murder investigation. I mean, the arrest of Richard Allen in October. So instead of focusing on the DOC timeline that we've been kind of working with lately, I figured we could go a little bit farther back. I don't know if everybody knows this, but probably most people do. In May 2022, I filed a lawsuit against Carroll County, Indiana, against the whole county. No, I'm just kidding. Against certain individuals in Carroll County. And the reason that I did that is something that maybe we can talk about tonight. Let me see who's here first. Hi, friend. Hi, other friend. Another thing I'm really bad at is I'm trying to read comments as I go. Can y'all hear me? Yes. Because I don't read them aloud and then I hear about it because people that are listening and not watching can't see them. Hello, Big Fish. El Pesote. Woman. And thanks, Dan. This is true. Who else is here? Hey, Fiend. My wife is here. Justice for Fiend. What happened to Fiend? I hope he gets justice. Whatever happened to him? Nope. Wrong thing. We got it. We're fine. We can hear you. Good evening. Good luck with that, DB. Let us know if you need any friendly briefs. Although I probably wouldn't be much help. Yeah, no. All right, let's do it. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh my gosh, Dan. That's terrifying. I'm glad that you're okay. That's definitely scary. And you drive a lot, so shit like that probably rattles. Hi, Zero Cool. Car, even scarier. All right, let's do it. Ah, I got a sticky key. Okay. Lord. That's probably going to happen 10 more times tonight. All right. Can everyone see that? Yes, you can. So, and I'm going to ask y'all to please bear with me because I am not, oh my God, fuck. What do I do about this? DB, fix my keyboard. I'm going to have to unplug it. I even took the key off. The key is off. Okay. So I'm going to ask y'all to bear with me. I'm not the best presenter of information. If something's out there, I will find it. But presenting it is, this is like, okay, we're going to unplug this. Oh my God. It's like Rogue. Motherfucker. Okay. We are going to unplug it though, because that's going to keep happening. Going to drive me crazy. Oh my God. Okay. Whew. We're good, man. We're hot to trot. Press escape. Can I make it smaller? Are you joking? It is small, right? I think it needs to be bigger, is what you're saying. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. How is it still doing that? Oh, it's not. Okay. Here we go. Regroup. So I, believe it or not, did not begin my, thank you, DB, for your help. Stop, please. Okay, so believe it or not, I did not begin my adventure, my journey into the Delphi case, obviously with everybody, because we're all here watching this tonight. I actually didn't start it the traditional way. I was not super into true crime. I actually started... That works. I started looking into Delphi and into Carroll County actually as research. I was doing research for my thesis, for my master's program. And I wanted to look at the impacts of trauma in the form of unsolved homicide on a community. I was doing macro level social work. And so I chose Delphi because I knew they had 2 unsolved homicides of children, and I knew that they had gone on for a few years. Aside from that, I didn't know a ton about the cases. And I figured I would do an evaluation of the community, talking to organizations, talking to like stakeholders, locals, parents, loved ones, and just kind of evaluate what resources and strengths exist, what was needed, just a very basic research proposal. And as I started to dig into Carroll County and look at the nonprofits and look at the resources available for mental health, I realized very quickly that, can I zoom in further? No, that does nothing on y'all's screen, huh? Just mine. Okay. I realized that Carroll County was not like other places that I had researched. It was very different. I had a really hard time getting people to open up. And I don't mean like personally about their personal lives. I just mean even their organizations, their nonprofits. You know, they were not big on disclosure. They were not really trusting of somebody, even a social worker, which was unusual for me at the time. I was very, very naive. I was very ignorant to how things kind of work in places like Carroll County that are very small. They're very insulated, and they have experienced a multitude of trauma. So my research started as trauma as a result of homicide, and eventually it turned into trauma as a result of systemic corruption. And obviously the research stopped. At least that research stopped. The research continued. It's being socially definitely not getting paid, but. So we are going to start in July of 2021, which is a little bit, I want to say I really started looking at the county around spring of 2021. So I am way later than everybody else when it comes to Delphi. I didn't follow it. I mean, I think I got an update on like the Daily Mail Snapchat page in like 2017, saw a bridge guy, and I was like, that's really fucking scary. And I think I did listen to the Down the Hill podcast in 2019, and I remember thinking, holy crap, that case is not solved. I just assumed it'd be solved. But I didn't really attribute that to anything other than some cases don't get solved. Hey, Criminal Network. Maybe there's something to be said about people that come into the case later on, like myself and our friend Criminal Network here. Our perspective is, well, maybe that's a question for later, but yeah. It's interesting that Criminal Network and I came in around the same time and have some similar, well, I don't know. So, all right. July 2021 is when I started shifting my focus away from trauma and the mental health and research. I had abandoned that research project. I did something else and finished, but I continued to look at what was going on in Carroll County because it was very confusing to me. It was very concerning. I was very curious. And the first thing I started doing was just cold calling nonprofits. And so that's like the Wabash and Erie Canal Center, the Community Foundation, the Flora, all of the ones that we hear kind of in the, I don't know, if you've been around the case a long time, or if you're like super invested, like a weirdo like I am, you probably know what I'm talking about. But they didn't really want to talk. They certainly didn't want to talk about the murders. And when I say the murders, I don't mean the crime itself, but kind of like, how are y'all feeling? What is it like living here? You know, do y'all talk about it? Are you scared? What has come of these unsolved crimes for you what strengths, what fractures, what's the impact? And I'll get into it a little later, but I didn't get very far. So I started looking at leadership in Carroll County, because obviously our elected officials have a lot to do with our funding, which means they have a lot to do with what mental health and community health services and resources exist in our community. They have a lot to do with the policies. They have a lot to do with the culture. They have a lot to do with infrastructure. They have a lot to do with, is there a bus that I can take to get to work, or do I have to have a vehicle? Are there after school programs for kids, or do kids just like go home after school? I really wanted to understand what it was like here. And eventually, I was watching a lot of council meetings. Fortunately, Debbie Lowe is a local lifelong journalist. She has been in Carroll County for a long time. I think she was in Tippecanoe, and she worked in like child family services for a long time, and she was still a journalist at the time, but she was doing that work too. Her and Robert Ives were really good friends because Robert Ives was the prosecutor in Tippecanoe County. All of that to say, she's very she's a local. She was a local person. She's been reporting on Carroll County for years and years, and she was the primary writer and editor for the Carroll County Comment, which is the newspaper in Carroll County, which is where the majority of it's just an incredible archive of history and an incredible archive of events. And it's just, I mean, thank God for Deb Lowe. She's amazing. She's a fabulous writer and journalist, and she really does not pull any punches, but she's fair. I'm sure people here have read the comment. It's very good journalism. So Debbie Lowe also uploaded public meetings for the county. That was part of her job. I think that was a self-given role. So when she was writing for the Comment, she also would attend pretty much every single public meeting. So commissioners, council, drainage board, Delphi school system, what else? If there's a meeting and it's public, Debbie is there and she's reporting on it. And she would record the meetings and upload them to her YouTube channel, which still exists up until very recently. So that's where I kind of started my research. This is a good point too. So I noticed some trends. I noticed that I was seeing a lot of the same names over and over, which is not unusual. It's not a conspiracy. It's just kind of what happens in small towns and small communities, obviously. Oh, do you want me to go away so y'all can see the document? I can do that too. Hold on. How do I do that, Dewey? Like this? Is that better? Or wait, what if I do... Will this do anything? No, not really, right? What if I close this? Or did you want that there, DB? Okay, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll share this afterwards. I'm so sorry. Okay. Zoom in a bit. Hold Command and scroll your mouse wheel up. So I can change the view on this screen, but it doesn't do anything on... Oh, wait, yes, it does. Y'all, I'm so sorry. Now we're getting somewhere. DB wants to unzip his skin and step out of it and wring it out right now, probably. It's just making him... Okay, is that better, y'all? There we go. Okay, cool. Awesome. We did it. Thank you, DB. There he is. This happens a lot, by the way. I don't know what the deal is, but for some reason, the Carroll County Sheriff's Department Facebook page is either the most hackable Facebook page, or whoever's setting the passwords is not doing their due diligence, or I don't know what the deal is, but that page has been hacked like 100 times. So, all right, I guess I'm going to just dive in. So here we go. So we are going to talk about the sheriff, and we are going to talk about the sheriff's election. And the reason that matters is because obviously the sheriff of a small county like Carroll County has a lot to do with safety. And since my focus was wellness and safety, I figured that would be a good place to look. I knew there was an election coming up the following year. And I wasn't super suspicious yet of anything at this time. I was just kind of trying to consume and absorb as much as I could. And so the first thing that I noticed that was kind of strange was that Liggett, who was the detective of Carroll, the Carroll County Sheriff at the time, he was at this point, I believe that Kevin Hammond no, there he is. Tony Liggett was the second detective below Kevin Hammond at this point. But what was odd to me was that other officers with the sheriff's department and other officers with the Delphi Police Department and other officers with E911 and the fire department, a whole lot of people in uniform were endorsing Tony Liggett, which just was weird because I was like, you don't see that very often, especially when another candidate with the sheriff's department, who was Mike Thomas, who's the second in command below the sheriff. He was Major Mike Thomas, who was the chief deputy, was also running for sheriff. So that was kind of unusual to me. I just imagined that there was probably, I don't know, drama, politics, maybe not. I didn't know much about it. I didn't know Mike Thomas at this time. So it was just interesting. So in July 2021, Liggett kind of unveils his campaign. He's got his, obviously, Drew Yoder's a name most people are probably familiar with in my chat. He is a deputy with the sheriff's department. He was one of the first responders to the Flora, the fatal quadruple homicide, the house fire in Flora, November 21st, 2016. He ran in and tried to get the girls out and ended up getting burned. And him and Josh Steisinger were the first on the scene. All of that to say, he is the golden boy of the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. At least he was at the time. He had about 3 lawsuits filed against him. By the time Rick Allen was arrested, I want to say he had 3 excessive force lawsuits. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, Drew was a big supporter of Tony Liggett, as were, let's see, we got, I don't know who this is. There's Josh, there's Tony, there's a couple other deputies in here, but anyway, huge success at the Burlington Fall Festival parade. So humbled by the amount of people that take time to support my run for sheriff. As many of you know, my personal Facebook account was hacked. Whatever the hacker did is not fixable. I lost both of my sheriff pages as well. They'll be back up soon. I'm currently trying to rebuild to be even better. Feel free to share this post so I can get my friends list back up quicker. Thanks for your support. Okay, so a year before the election and a few months before the candidacy opens, but that's not unusual. Okay, back to, how am I doing? Okay. So in September 2021, which is that's when Liggett kind of unveils his campaign for sheriff, which I just showed you. Facebook is hacked. The Carroll County Commissioners, there's a meeting that some people in here have probably seen it, but it's got then Sheriff Tobe Lesme goes up before the commissioners, who they're a legislative body elected. You've got the council, which deals mostly with like city funds, and then you've got and county funds, and then you've got the commissioners that deal with, I don't even actually know specifically how they're differentiated. I just know that like council, I think of money, commissioners, I think of like money and other things. So somebody can probably explain it better to me. But you have to go before these legislative, I guess you'd call them, these elected officials, and ask for things when you need them. If you are a county agency, a county sheriff, a director of E911, whatever agency you are in charge of, you have to go before the commissioners or the council and make your plea and get what you want. They deal with the budget, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously I'm not like the one to really explain that well, but so in September 2021, something happens in the Delphi investigation. Although most people didn't know that it was happening, the sheriff of Carroll County, Tobe Lesenby, went before the Carroll County Commissioners and asked if they would approve a multi-year lease for a brand new investigative center for the double homicide investigation. The discussion during the meeting grew a little contentious. The decision was not made in a joint setting or in accordance with county rules. Both council and commissioners approved $15,000 for setup costs. So the reason that this is a little wonky is because public meetings and commissioners and council of a public county, they have local rules and they have to do things a certain way. And decisions have to be voted on. Most votes have to be public. You have to post your meetings that are public ahead of time. You have to there's all kinds of things that you have to do for accountability because you work for the public. But I think I need to zoom in on this too, right? Oh wait, I'm not sharing the screen. Share this tab. There's no way y'all are gonna be able to see this either, so. Are we getting, that's not doing anything. My bad. Okay, well, I'll just read it to you. So, this is a couple days after, this is a couple days after Tony unveils his campaign at the Burlington Fall Festival. 5 days later, commissioners signed multi-year lease for homicide investigation space. Carroll County Commissioners Bill Brown, Lauren Hyland, and Steve Pearson did not make the decision in a joint setting to locate county investigators in a building on North 9th Street in Delphi. But they were together at the Monday, September 20th morning meeting to approve a lease, presenting to them by attorney Ted Johnson for the transaction. The matter was on the September 6th meeting agenda, which was canceled due to the lack of a quorum. It was not explained how the location was approved or how Johnson was directed to develop a lease for the project. It was stated during the commissioners' meeting, Pearson authorized Sheriff Lesenby to make a presentation about the building to the council and to request the funding. The council approved spending $15,000 for setup costs for the project at their September 16th meeting. Nothing was ratified for decisions about the rental of the property for the investigation. Sheriff Lesenby advised on Monday that 1 or 2 commissioners, no names were given, walked through the building prior to the Monday meeting. Pearson complained about county council members Paul Ryder and council president Josh Plew specifically. He said that he received telephone calls about the matter from both of them. He said Paul Ryder told him that the council was not going to fund renovations in the courthouse for the investigation and that they should allow the investigation to be located in a building across from Main Street on the south side of the courthouse. Pearson said he believed that council members were not upfront with communication about the matter and he thinks that there were some shady deals on the council. In a somewhat related matter, Commissioner Brown asked Sheriff Lesenby if the county should hire a fresh set of eyes for the double homicide investigation. He asked if this was something that commissioners should pursue. Quote, "We did have public funded agencies from outside the state come on board," end quote, Sheriff Lesenby said. The sheriff said the input was useful and it could happen again, but it should really be directed by the investigators on the case, not the commissioners. Okay. Amazing. Okay. So moving right along. I did not put this in, but we also, let's see, September, October, November, December, about 2.5, 3 months later, we get the 10 p.m. announcement with Sergeant Pierce in his oversized cowboy hat sitting in front of like the ISP bed sheet talking about Anthony shots. Does everyone remember that? It was like December 6th or something. That was very weird. That's all I'll say about it. That was very weird. I didn't really know what to make of it at the time. Just to be completely transparent, I thought it was kind of like ridiculous. But that's neither here nor there. All of that to say, there was we know that at this time they knew about Anthony shots, they knew about Tony and Kagan Klein. They already had Kagan Klein in custody for like the better part of a year and a half at this point, or a year. So Anyway, I would love to know what was going on around this time before, I guess, there he is. Thank you, DB. There's his ISP twin sheet that fortunately he had because he did laundry at his mom's on his way to work, and he was able to pull that out and come in clutch for everybody. So they were able to put a video out. I'm kidding about that part. Okay. Just another thing that is notable. I always tend to look at things through a trauma lens because it's just what I do. In January 2022, so candidacy for the sheriff election and all of the other positions opens up. And then also the community of Carroll County was in mourning after a single vehicle accident killed 2 members of local law enforcement. So Deputy Noah Rainey and his passenger, who was Jail Deputy Dane Northcutt, were pronounced deceased at the scene of the crash. It was a single vehicle crash. I think it was icy. I believe speed was a factor, but you can't ask that question because they will not answer it. I don't know. I know that ISP was conducting an investigation into the crash. They hit a pole, and both of them were killed on impact, which is horrible. It's just absolutely terrible. And of course, as he always does, Mike Thomas was front and center of trying to be helpful, supportive. Keep in mind, this was a time when Mike Thomas was not being treated great by local law enforcement, by his peers and his, colleagues and friends. So, but this really impacted Mike. Not long after, I don't know if this is on the timeline, but I want to say within a week or 2 of this happening, Stephanie Thompson and her daughter Maya Thompson. Stephanie was a good friend of Mike as well. They had worked together. She was an ISP detective or trooper, I believe. She conducted several polygraphs related to the Flora fire investigation. And Stephanie Thompson and her daughter Maya were killed in a house fire. So, oh wait, I'm not on the right tab. Sorry, DB, I'm hijacking this from you. I always forget to do that. Okay. So here's the articles about the crash. Here is just people thanking Mike for helping to set up funeral arrangements for the deceased officers. He's a great guy. And that was a really sad thing that happened. And of course, no transparency about it, but this is a true statement. But gently and respectfully always. Not that that matters, but he's a very good person and a good cop. So next, okay, next up. Hey, man. Okay. March 2022. Sudden and unexplained changes are made to the homicide suspect flyer, prompting attempts at clarification and response from lead detective at the time and future Sheriff Tony Liggett. This is not on the timeline. I will add it. I thought I had already. But on September 22nd, 2021, the lead detective for the Carroll County Sheriff's Department and the lead detective on the double homicide case, Kevin Hammond, retired. Thank you, DB. Unexpectedly, I believe he had maybe a sudden health thing happen, and they were like, you should retire. I don't know that was so gentle or kind, but yeah, he retired. Allegedly, I don't want to get in trouble, allegedly was kind of like forced out, but he retired after serving his tenure with the Sheriff's Department. Don't know what he's up to. Hope he's doing well. I wish him well. Okay, back to March. Barbara McDonald was one of the first people to notice that the ISP was requesting The FBI removed the height and weight from the description of the Delphi murder suspect on the flyer. Then WTHR also confirmed that the Delphi Unified Command Task Force requested that the FBI remove the physical descriptors, meaning height, weight, and age, from the suspect flyer. Tony Liggett for Sheriff Facebook page responded. We'll get to that in a second, but here's Barbara's tweets. Don't know if you can see them. Probably not. How do I get rid of this sidebar? Oh, did that help? No. Okay. For those following the Delphi case, the Indiana State Police requested the FBI remove the height and weight from the description because they don't want people to stop sending in tips, basically. What is missing is height, weight, and age. The request to remove the information came from the Indiana State Police. Interesting, because that's interesting. The Delphi Task Force requested the FBI remove the physical descriptor. Is there somebody who works on the Unified Command? Go back to what, DB? Are you talking to me? No. Is there somebody on the Unified Command Task Force, the Delphi Task Force, who also is the Indiana State Police? I don't know. Maybe. We'll never know. So somebody requested that the descriptors be removed from the posters. Didn't tell anybody. People just noticed. So then on Facebook, thank you, Criminal Network. I was wondering when that was, and I did not have time to pull up the Frank's memo and look. So you're saying it was 2021 when Doug Carter asked the FBI and booted them off the case, according to Holman. During deposition, the defense obtained that information from Jerry Holman, which is interesting because I guess Tony Liggett in his deposition was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't know we kicked the FBI off the case. Interesting. I believe this to be true. Oops, fuck. I also believe this to be true. And I also believe this to be true. I'm not reading them aloud again. I'm sorry. So Criminal Network says, remember in 2021, Doug Carter asked the FBI to leave the case according to Holman. Liggett had no idea that happened, says Criminal Network, and I agree. DB says, yes, after Detective Ferenczi was murdered. Right, because he was murdered in July, I believe, right? L says, I'm pretty sure the FBI stepped down March 2017. That's probably true also. I think they basically left on their own accord in 2017 and then officially probably got the boot from someone. Unified Command. Tony Liggett, Kevin Hammond, Jerry Holman, Jay Harper, David Vito, and Davies. I don't remember his first name. Jerry Holman is ISP Fiend. Thank you so much. Rich Davies. Thank you, DB. So interesting. The Dream Team. So let's read these. This attempt at clarification from our favorite. Now detective Tony Liggett. Oh my God, it worked. Okay, well there you go. I could have done that an hour ago. Sorry, everybody. Okay, is that better? You can't leave. I have DB trapped in my linen closet. So if he's nice, he can go home after this. But You know who loves Die Hard, Joe Schmo? Somebody that I love loves Die Hard. And she happens to be in this chat. Okay. I don't know about that. So, somebody on Facebook says to the Tony Liggett for Sheriff page, can you explain why the height and weight have disappeared from the flyer looking for the person that took Libby and Abby's lives in Delphi in 2017? Thank you in advance for responding. Not sure about the disappearing part of your question. If it has disappeared, it shouldn't have been there to start with. When that sketch was released, a height and weight was not released. It's an FBI flyer. My best answer is above. If they've changed their flyer, you should contact them, the FBI. But I will also talk to them. Thank you for pointing it out. And I didn't include her messages, but she was basically like, huh? Don't y'all talk? And he said, we absolutely do talk. As I previously stated, it was not supposed to be there to start with. Thanks. So his attempt to kind of get out of this little mess here is that in 2019, when they released the young guy sketch, the height and weight and age should have been removed from the, yeah, they did, from the flyer, which I don't know, maybe. But that's pretty concerning that for 2 years at this point, they just had wrong info up on their most distributed flyer. I don't know why it seems that way. Best I can tell you is it wasn't supposed to be there. We did not put a description out with the second sketch. They finally got it corrected. Those pesky FBI always making mistakes. They finally got around to correcting that. That is why, as above, I referred you to contact them. But you should absolutely keep looking. As I said, there wasn't supposed to be one there, and it has been corrected. We don't want people not sending tips based on that description. Focus on the sketch, the bridge picture, and the voice. Okay. We'll do that, Tony. So, back to our timeline. Okay. April, this is when things get fun. Good question, DB. That's funny. Okay. That's really funny. So in April 2022, a lot of things happened in April 2022. So I'm going to go through these, but basically, an administrative complaint is sent to the Carroll County Election Board and the prosecutor per Indiana election procedures that alleges local, state, and federal election and campaign finance violations. Who would do something like that? Oops. So, back to our timeline. So, me, Mothman, Angela, Ange, I was just doing my little thing, research and poking around and just reading shit. And I got to a page on the Carroll County Comet, excuse me, and noticed something odd. Again, I was like, that's weird. I'm going to zoom in. So this was the ad for Tony Liggett for Sheriff. Here he is with all of his friends, looking really proud and excited and blue. But what is weird is that the advertiser for this ad is none other than the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Advertiser, Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Now, one could argue that that was a mistake and that it was an algorithm thing, which is what the comment said a couple times. But the problem with that is that you have to actually fill out. I tried to buy an advertisement to see. I tested it. you have to fill out your information, your phone number, your email, the advertiser name. So not sure how an algorithm could have gotten Mr. Sheriff Lesenby's direct line, his email filled in there. That was odd. Yeah, see, there it is, advertiser. Pretty clear. I mean, I'd say that's clear as day. However, shit happens, you know? So, I guess the first time this happened like 5 times. The first time this happened was March 30th. The second time it happened was April 6th. Then April 13th, then again on April 20th. So, and they looked slightly different each time, but basically, that's a big no-no. If you are running for an elected position in a partisan election, you cannot be campaigning in your official capacity, nor can your local, state, federally funded agency campaign or campaign on your behalf or support you. You certainly cannot use county funds, resources, emails, phone numbers, even names or uniforms to support your campaign. That is illegal. It's illegal in the Indiana state code. It's certainly against the local rules set out in Carroll County, both by the sheriff's office and by the local ordinances. I have to find it. It's also a federal violation of the Hatch Act, which we will talk about. So, more on that. So because I'm a meddler and a crank, I wrote to Joe because I figured it was a misunderstanding. I said, "Hi, Joe. Would you please clarify the below screen grab taken from the comment website earlier today? Specifically, who purchased this advertisement?" And Joe said, "Angela, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. As it states at the bottom of the ad was paid for by the committee to elect Tony Liggett sheriff. I have talked to our website hosting company this morning, and they tell me it's an algorithm issue. And they went in and manually changed it. That's true, they did, but then it happened again, like 5 more times. So that's weird. I don't know, an algorithm issue. I don't know shit about fuck. I'm just a silly woman asking questions, so. True that. Hey, man. Okay. I emailed back and forth with Joe probably 3 or 4 times. Each time it was pretty much the same. Joe, who paid for this ad? Thanks. Angela, committee to elect Tony Liggett for sheriff. Any more questions? Anything else? Thanks again, Joe. I don't know. I just felt like there was probably more of that. So, oops. I did a thing. I asked the AG's office, said, "Hey, I'm seeking info on county election violations, specifically relating to using public funds for campaigning, possible Hatch Act, regarding political coercion in the workplace." By the way, at this point, I was like balls deep in speaking with, I would say there's a handful of locals who were...
That's fucking illegal.
Holy fucking shit.
That's fucking illegal.
Oh my God. I aged just then. DB? I thought I was getting summoned, struck by lightning or something. You motherfucker. Oh my God. You know, I might have. I just may have. Whew. All right. Love that. Love that. I thought that was Jerry. I thought Holman was here. Okay. So, wait a minute. Okay. Thank God I don't have like a startle response, huh? Yeah, right. Just kidding. My goodness. Okay. So I did a thing. I asked the AG, and then I forgot about it for a few days. And then the AG wrote me back, and they said, "Hey, thanks for contacting us. The Secretary of State is the election officer for the state of Indiana. Please contact the Secretary of State for your email concerns at number." So I did. And they told me, I'm sorry if this is boring, I promise it's just, there's a reason for it. They told me who to contact, Matt Kochever, who is the head of the Indiana Election Division for the state of Indiana, co-general counsel. I don't remember what I said. It was probably similar to what I emailed the AG. He said, "Just left you a voice message. Since this involves a campaign for sheriff, a local office, the entity that has jurisdiction under our state's election code to take on this complaint and investigate it is the county election board in your county. I suggest your next step is to file an official complaint with them and ask the chair of the election board to place this on the agenda of a future meeting to review if you've not already taken that step. Additionally, please note that this, which you allege, applies only to an employee of a government employer. Those who hold an elected office, like the sheriff, are considered office holders, not employees. So in this case, the sheriff is not subject to the Indiana code. However, my complaint specifically was dealing with Tony Liggett. So that was wonderful and helpful advice, but you're not off the hook, Tony. Sorry. So then I called Mr. Kochever back, and we had a very nice conversation that was very informative. And I told him ahead of time that I was recording the call and transcribing it, and he was fine with that. So I have it, which will come up later. Ha ha ha. Hi, Jen P. I'm so sorry, Jen. I literally, I don't know if you just saw, but I was just assaulted by something on my computer screen. Okay. Okay. So, as advised, unofficially, not legally advised, but as informed by the co-general counsel for the election division of Indiana, I filed a complaint. I submitted an administrative complaint to the chair of the election board, who is, on their website, said Sharon Milburn, who is also the clerk of Carroll County. So the clerk in Carroll County, so counties can basically make their own local rules for the most part, as long as they're in line with Indiana code. And so Sharon Milburn, who's the elected clerk of Carroll County, also sits on the election board. And then I believe there is also like a president or whatever. But there's four people who are elected to the elected to the election board. I think they're elected. Maybe they're appointed. I don't fucking know. So I emailed Sharon. I hope you're well. I was referred to you by this in regards to concerns. We're requesting that the Board of Elections investigate the following. Please see attached. Thank you so much. There it is. Just doing what I'm told. And also to, let's see, am I sharing this tab? Yeah. And to, I'm sorry if I'm making y'all dizzy. Prosecutor via email. This is where things get weirder, if you can believe it. Hi, Mr. McClellan. You like my email? I tried to redact it, but it's been around. It gets around. It's gotten around. Y'all can see my email. I don't give a fuck. I do love my dogs most of the time. Hey, Mr. McClellan. Hope you're well. Reluctant to contact your office. It pertains to matters and individuals within Carroll County. However, I was encouraged to do so by the AG and State Board of Accounts. Oh, am I out of order? No, I'll get to that. Please see the attached files and the email response below. I reached out to the election board already, but I've yet to receive a response. Appreciate your attention. Didn't hear anything, although this was I don't know what day of the week this was. But what was weird was a couple days later, somebody forwarded me or sent me a screenshot of a person I had never heard of before. I was not in Delphi groups at the time on Facebook. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, obviously. But somehow my complaint that I sent to the election board and the prosecutor ended up on a Facebook group. 2 Hatch Act complaints filed separately. So I said, Mr. McClellan, I hope you're doing well. Want to inform you the below documents originally sent to clerk election, I think this was Sharon, have apparently been leaked to a local Facebook group and were just sent to me. Please confirm receipt of this email. I was peeved. That annoyed me. I didn't understand that there's more leaks in Carroll County than whatever the saying is. I'm not going to try. I didn't know that at the time. I was very annoyed by this. I felt like I was getting believe it or not, I didn't think they were taking this seriously. I have too many tabs open. Hold on. So, on Thursday, April 28th, Mr. McClellan did get back to me and said, hi, Angela. Or no, he didn't say hi. Excuse me. Angela, I did receive your email and the attachments. I just finished an 8-day jury trial last night at 7 p.m. here in Carroll County. DB, do you happen to remember what jury trial Nick McClellan is referring to? That he just finished the day before this exchange? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So, Jennifer Dean, we'll talk about her and her case soon too. It's currently in the appellate court, I believe, because Nick McClellan and Judge Diener just absolutely clowned jury instruction, but that's another time. So, given the fact that I work with several of the people involved in my complaint, I believe it would be best for me to forward this information to have a special prosecutor look at it and see if any violations have been committed. That'll take away any issues of conflicts. I have directed my staff to start the paperwork today to make that happen. I appreciate you forwarding me this information, sincerely. I was like, oh my God, that's so great. I'm so glad that it'll be looked into. Weird. Joe Paul, that little Joe Paul with WLFI. The clerk's office informs your email was used to send a complaint. Could you let me know who you are and if you're available today for an interview? Thanks for our help. Best, Joe. Emailed Joe back, didn't tell my name, but I said, yeah, sure. Call me at this number. Never heard from him. So I still have not heard from the election board. I made them aware of this on the 22nd. It's the 29th, and the general election is on May 3rd. And by the way, it's not just the newspaper thing. I mean, there's more exhibits and examples of what was going on with Tony Liggett's campaign, but it's fucking outrageous and egregious. And it's not just me on the outside believing that. There are cohorts of people local in Carroll County that had a major problem with how things were being, with how the campaign was being run. And if you don't believe me, just consider the fact that in November 2022, Carroll County, who's never had a Democratic or non-Republican sheriff, almost did, because almost 50% of the county voted for a brand new independent outsider, Mark Pinkard, because so many people were disgusted with Tony Liggett and his campaign, FYI. And that's after he arrests the Delphi murderer. So anyway, nobody's gotten back to me at the election board. However, they do have a meeting. And wouldn't you know it, they developed a complaint policy. The policy reads, all complaints must be made in writing and must provide the full name and address of the person filing the complaint, which I did. The complaint must be signed, sworn to, and notarized, meaning that the notary's certificate must state that the complaint was signed and sworn before me, or must indicate that the complaint affirmed the complaint under penalty of perjury for an administrative complaint. Complaints must be sent to the Carroll County Election Board at address. Oh, okay. So that's, well, too bad. Good thing I got my complaint in like a few days before that damn pesky policy, or that would have been a bummer. Also, Sheriff candidate Tony Liggett filed a defective campaign finance report, as he did the entirety of the campaign season. Interesting. Okay. So finally, oh wait, they had nope, wrong. I got my date wrong. I'll come back to that. Finally, Sue Wright, who filed this with me at the time, I said, what are we going to do, Sue? They're going to blow us off. She said, you know what? If you want something done, damn it. She marched into the clerk's office and she filed our complaint in person and handed it to Sharon Milburn. As you can see, stamped.
It's butt kicking time.
Here's our complaint. Stamped. And she wrote, please consider this an election complaint to the Carroll County Election Board in Carroll County. It's and agencies. It is a duplicate, and a Hatch Act complaint has been filed with the Office of Special Counsel, which is also true, because I sent it to both. Let's see. How many steps would y'all say? Oh my God. Wait, put it back up. That's funny. Okay. How many steps would you say we took before our administrative... Oh, you can't see what I see? I didn't show you this? Oh, fuck. Sorry, I forgot to share the tab, huh? Thank you, Yellow. Dirt. Okay, starting over. This is the complaint we filed in person. Thank you for telling me that. Okay, here's the complaint that Sue dropped off and stamped. Yellow. Blah, blah. And I will go through it very quickly for everybody because frivolous, not so sure. Please consider this an election complaint to the Carroll County Election Board. Carroll County, it is something. It's a duplicate of the Hatch Act complaint filed with the Office of Special Counsel. Okay. So I would say about 6 or 7 different notifications before we launched our kamikaze mission, which was after multiple attempts to file our complaint with the election board, the prosecutor, alleging violations, we filed in the Carroll Circuit Court. So, on Tuesday, May 3rd, the election for sheriff takes place. Yay, Tony! Sheriff Tony Liggett has won the Republican nomination for Carroll County Sheriff. He received 51.5% of the total votes against opponents Lee Horde and Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas had the second highest percentage of 37.1, followed by Horde with 11.4. 51.4, that's what we call a landslide. So, then on May 6th, oh, we love Scott. Scott's cool. Scott is like, Scott's like, whatchamacallit? Scott's like the wind beneath my wings, basically. Here's our complaint. We're just calling for call us crazy. This is literally it.
Squidward, you're standing on my foot.
Oops. Oh, sorry, SpongeBob.
And you got your elbow in my ribs.
Ew.
Excellent. Thank you, DB, for that. That was great. We're calling for an investigation. That's it. Of the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Lesenby, Sheriff candidate Tony Liggett, the Flora Volunteer Fire Department, who was also advertising for Tony Liggett on the Carroll County comment page. Financial Builders Federal Credit Union was also advertising for Tony Liggett financially on the comment page in name. And municipal employees of Carroll County for engaging in political activity prohibited by state and federal law. We allege that Sheriff Lesenby, Tony Liggett, and multiple municipal employees have committed numerous ethical, state, and federal violations related to a partisan primary election, including violations of Indiana Code and the Federal Hatch Act. Yeah. On or about April 1st, they violated this code by publicly endorsing and advocating for the election of a candidate in a primary election using the money, equipment, goods, and materials, including mail and messaging systems of his government employer. You cannot purchase an advertisement with your own funds or with the Sheriff's Department funds and then publicly endorse and advertise for a candidate for an elected position utilizing your county sheriff email, your county sheriff phone number. You're doing it in public in your uniform on duty, or using your name, Sheriff Tobe Lesenby. If you are going to pay for an ad for Tony Liggett in the Carroll County comment as the Sheriff of Carroll County, you are more than welcome to do that as Tobe Lesenby, not Sheriff Tobe Lesenby, not Carroll County Sheriff's Office, and you certainly cannot be using money that does not belong to you personally to do it. That's illegal. Here we talk about the comment.
That's fucking illegal.
There you go. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. However, Here's everybody who campaigned for Tony Liggett in uniform on duty. Maybe some familiar names. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe some familiar names. There might be a familiar name or two. Oh my goodness. Look at this, Courtney. I didn't even know that at the time. Is Courtney still in here?
Subpoena Dukas take them.
Bye, psych. Yep. Todd Peckney was the officer that unlawfully detained and searched the home and property and pole barn of Jesse Snyder and friends in 2007. And he was sued in his individual and official capacity by Mr. Snyder before Mr. Snyder's death. Tony Liggett and Tobe Lesenby violated the Federal Hatch Act by utilizing agency resources to advance Tony Liggett's candidacy and by encouraging, suggesting, or implying that subordinate employees support Tony Liggett's campaign for sheriff. Their actions created the impression that Tony Liggett is running for sheriff in an official capacity with the authority of Sheriff Lesenby and the agency behind them. In doing so, they violated the Hatch Act. This is like the most blatant. People get in so much trouble for so much less than this. I don't know how much more I can stress that the shit that these guys were doing brazenly is ridiculous. Florida Volunteer Fire Department, financial credit building, whatever. Here's everybody's name. Respectfully, whoop. Well, there you go. I have it. Actually, it's public anyway, so. And exhibits. There are exhibits. I'm gonna try and go faster. Although I feel like this kind of is important because a lot of people have asked me about this over the years. I haven't talked about it really. So Carroll County Sheriff's Office continues to purchase advertisements in their agency name for Tony Liggett. Upon our contacting the comment for clarification, this version of the advertisement on their webpage was immediately taken down and replaced with advertiser Tony Liggett. But in perpetuity, this lives on. Left to right. Oh, wait, let me read this because it's fantastic. Can everyone's be nice, I think, right? Scott, you're welcome here. There's just a lot of sarcasm. It's okay, Scott. It's all good. It's all love here. There are multiple law enforcement agencies that have the privilege of serving the citizens of Carroll County, from local officers to the state level. Based on our experience, who's our? Keep that in mind. Based on our experience, Tony Liggett's the best person to serve as the next Carroll County Sheriff. He's served this community for over 20 years. His integrity, leadership, and devotion to the citizens of Carroll County are just some of the reasons he's the best candidate to serve as your next sheriff. We humbly ask that you join us on May 3rd in voting for Tony Liggett as Carroll County Sheriff, endorsed by law enforcement officers that serve Carroll County. Oh. So law enforcement officers that serve Carroll County endorse Tony Liggett. What if you're a law enforcement officer in Carroll County and you don't want to endorse Tony Liggett? I guess you don't have to, except there's one person with the sheriff's department who's not in this picture, which means multiple people in this picture are on duty in this picture. Let's just leave it at that. I'm going to tell you who, but I know who. And they know who. And they're on duty. Left to right, there's all their names. And then at the bottom here, This was a nice addition, not pictured, but we want you to know that we definitely back Tony Liggett. Here's all her names, and then Jerry Holman, Dave Vito, Dan Doolin, Todd Peckney. I haven't actually tracked like the source of this down, but I got an email from the State Board of Accounts on the 10th of May. We are a post, they included my complaint, and then they said, we are a post-audit agency auditing the financial statements of the county. Are you aware if any county funds were used? If so, could you provide supporting documentation? Thank you so much. Can I speak to you by phone? And then we talked on the phone, and I gave her a bunch of stuff. I don't know what happened with it. Our complaint was still ignored. They were going to certify the election on the 13th. We filed a little thingy. We filed a little motion before Judge Diener. Still ignored it. This is interesting. Somebody that was in the courthouse who was with Judge Diener and one or two other people at the time overheard Judge Diener, and this person has said that they will sign, swear, whatever, and it just has not been necessary because no one gives a fuck about this. But Judge Diener said aloud that he plans to sit on this complaint in injunction because it's frivolous. He's going to wait until the last minute. He was already talking to the election board about it, and he was going to throw it out. And this individual told me this. And of course, why should a local person be afraid of their judge and their election board? Need security. Like, this is just kind of the way that things operate in Carroll County. It's really sad. Nobody wants to dissent. Okay. Oops. How do I get my screen back? Okay. On the same day, I got an email. At no point, by the way, did I ever contact the Indiana State Police for a lot of reasons. I do not and did not trust the Indiana State Police. I did not believe that they would do anything about it. I was right, but I got an email on the 19th of May. I was reaching out to speak with you regarding your complaint about the ad run in the Carroll County Comment pertaining to the acting sheriff. Can you please respond with your name and a telephone number? My complaint was public record by this time, by the way. Why is this? Oh, I didn't share my screen again. Oh my God. Okay. I was reaching out to speak with you regarding your complaint about the ad that was run in the Carroll County Comment pertaining to the acting sheriff. Could you please respond with your name and a phone number so that I can reach you? Thank you for your time. Respectfully submitted, Brandon Bowling, Indiana State Police. He is part of the Lafayette Post. I think someone else we know is part of Lafayette Post, actually. It'll come to me. I can't remember who. Oh, it's Jerry Holman. So I did not respond to this guy, by the way. I think Sue did. I think Sue called him. I don't talk to cops, so I didn't, but Sue did. And he took our complaint, took our information. I believe that this Vito. Yeah, probably. What was I going to say? The Special Investigations Section, Organized Crime and Corruption, works very closely with the State Board of Accounts, which I did not know. So I'm assuming that those two emails were... Hi, Boom. You know, I don't know. I can assume everything all day long, and I'll probably never really have answers to a lot of this, but still nothing. Diener's sitting on our shit, being a corrupt fuck. Friday, May 20th, we finally were like, we're probably not going to get anywhere. By the way, we were communicating with people like very regularly, lots of people, very regularly, local people. We formally requested a change of venue outside the county. They're unlikely to receive a fair trial. By the way, I got fucking dragged to hell and back for our complaint, which was never supposed to be a lawsuit in the first place, but I really do stand by the evidence that we provided really speaks for itself. So I don't know why anybody would clown on anybody doing something like this, but some people think that it's really funny. So then I went through the timeline of everything that we tried prior to filing the complaint in the court. I actually messaged Nick McClellan on Facebook, and I was like, is this your right email address? And he said, yes. I put everything that we had tried in here. We e-filed everything. We asked them on May 13th, during a public meeting, the Board of Elections verbally acknowledged a pending civil lawsuit and injunction filed against them in Carroll Circuit Court. Despite the board's knowledge of such, they declined to investigate the complaint and injunction and moved to certify the primary election. All of the board members voted in favor of the motion. So they violated its legal. So the Board of Election is the entity that would investigate. Yes, Steve B. So he said, did you get support from locals who were too worried about speaking up in the community? Yes. We also had locals that were attending these meetings that were asking questions and sending us information and telling us, advising us what to do and how to do it. This is actually true. Plaintiffs have received no indication or assurance their complaint has received acknowledgement or attention on behalf of the elections court or Judge Diener. No, I hope not. Maybe, I don't know. Hey, Redneckzilla. All right. I'm sure that they were Diener was gonna approve that motion in due haste, right? No. So my next favorite thing that happened, I know this is like an hour and 20. I'm not gonna get through this all tonight, but that's okay. So finally, on the 27th, about 20 days after we filed our initial complaint, Judge Diener issued an order, May 27th, 2022. Comes now, the court, being duly advised, finds and orders as follows. Petitioners filed papers with the court on May 6th, 2022. Indiana Trial Rule 3 provides in its entirety, civil actions commenced by filing with the court a complaint or such equivalent pleading or document specified by statute by payment of the prescribed filing fee or filing an order waiving the filing fee, where service of process is required by furnishing to the clerk as many copies of the complaint and summons as necessary. Petitioners have not alleged and do not appear to have standing to seek relief regarding the purported grievances. True. We didn't seek relief. The relief that we were seeking was that they investigate, which I realize is not relief. But again, we wanted attention on it. We wanted eyes on it. May 10th, petitioners filed a paper captioned motion for preliminary injunction. Petitioners have not alleged and do not appear to have standing to seek such injunction. Petitioners apparently are causing to be issued subpoenas dookie teakum. We did. We filed 2 requests. We wanted all we wanted all emails. Actually, you know what? Can't do it that way. Oh my God, I'm so blind, y'all. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. And share here. So there's a form. We filled out our form. Any and all emails sent from the Carroll County Sheriff Department to the Carroll County Common in regard to placement of advertisements, emails sent to the Common in regard to placement of advertisements sent from Toblas and B's thing. Requested documents to be sent electronically to my co-plaintiff's email. Friday, May 20th. Sharon signed it, stamped it, and Diener was like, skirt! Hell fucking no, bitch. He didn't say that, but he wanted to. We tried. An attempt was made. We shot our shot. We did not get our subpoena dookie teakum. But we did. Let's go back to this order because it's hilarious. Diener loves writing an order. I don't know if y'all have read Diener's orders. Ouch. But he writes really funny orders. So yeah. This one. Thank you, everyone who's still here. I can't actually see how many people, but that doesn't matter because I see the chat and y'all are awesome. That's right. Okay. Petitioners apparently, you guys know that little redheaded, this keeps falling, that little redheaded boy from like the 2000s in like the Apparently video who was like, apparently, do you guys know who I'm talking about at the like county fair? You know what I'm talking about, that video? Anyway, I always think of that when I hear something by Judge Diener. Said apparently they're causing subpoenas to be issued. They do not have standing or authority to issue subpoenas. Sharon Milburn seemed to think we did because she signed off on them, but whatever, man. Yellow always knows what I mean. My fucking girl. That's my fucking girl. Okay. They do not have the authority to do that. On May 19th, they filed a motion for change of venue. No action. Everybody read this with me. No action is presently commenced. No action is presently commenced. They do not have standing to change venue because no action is commenced. Their motion for preliminary injunctions denied, aside from the procedural defects set forth. Cunty. I like it. Petitioners have not demonstrated standing or that an action exists and therefore cannot avail themselves of the extraordinary relief of a preliminary injunction. Yeah, Ben. Nobody fucking actually thought you were going to stop the election. Like, please. But thank you for acknowledging that we tried. Petitioner's motion for change of venues denied. Any motion will be considered upon commencement of an action. Until petitioners, me and my co-plaintiff, properly commence this action. Oh my God, this is giving me a headache. The clerk is prohibited from issuing subpoenas or any action requested by the petitioners. And this is my favorite part. Until the petitioners demonstrate standing, or that an action exists, they have no authority to participate in the legal process. As no action exists, notice of this order is directed to petitioners only. Except they wrote Attorney Munden's name in because, true to form, the very same day that that Diener says there's no action, there's no lawsuit, there's no action commenced, there's no claim stated, there's no relief sought. This is nothing. This is dismissed. It's going away. The same day. Actually, this is incorrect. Oh, wait, no, it's not. This is correct. So let's see. I think I uploaded this at one point. Yes, I did. I'll have to oh, Jesus, you're not gonna be able to see this probably. It's the best I can do right now. But Diener dismisses our claim on the 27th because of all the reasons he stated. What's funny is that on the same day that Diener says there is no lawsuit, there is no action, there's no claim stated, there's no relief sought, you don't have standing, this is a nothing complaint that doesn't exist, and it's just you're prohibited from participating in the legal process here. You are not to file another damn thing. Except he allowed, for some reason, the Carroll County Board of Election filed an appearance and hired an attorney and filed a motion for an enlargement of time to respond to our complaint. The complaint that Judge Diener, already dismissed. Everybody sees this, right? Does everybody kind of understand? No, I'm not trying to be patronizing. This is bananas. So on the same day that the election board hired their attorney, filed an appearance for a dead and dismissed non-complaint, Judge Diener granted their motion for more time to respond to the dead, dismissed, nothing complaint. There was nothing for them to respond to. There was no action commenced. He only said that 4 times in his order. So why? Why? Does anyone know why? I don't know why. Something funny, another funny thing happened though, because on the 31st of May, oh my God, another attorney for the county filed an appearance, this time for the commissioners. They also had an attorney file an appearance. Jenny, I don't know what to do. I am hard to follow. I'm so sorry. I'll share the timeline afterwards. It's also probably hard to follow because this is fucking crazy and makes no sense. So that might be part of it, but I also acknowledge this is pretty convoluted. So thank you for bearing with me. The commissioners file an appearance. They have an attorney. They hire an attorney to file an appearance. They also file for more time. And then Scott Ayers, in his individual capacity with the Carroll County Council, who's the council president, also files an appearance for an attorney. So I have 3 attorneys that have now come on board to a complaint that was never commenced, that doesn't exist, that was already dismissed, that we are barred from participating in. Does that make sense to everybody? Good, DB. That's all that matters. So Judge Diener keeps granting their motions for more time, even though he only notified the plaintiffs about the dismissed complaint because no action had been commenced. So this whole thing is kind of like ridiculous. So anybody who thinks that we cost the county a fuck ton of money, I would argue that allowing 3 of your county boards and agencies to file appearances on a cause that you had already dismissed probably cost the county more than I did. But all right, enough of that, because this gets this gets stupid. Oh wait, sorry. On July 7th and July 6th, 2 different attorneys file their individual motions to dismiss. Yes, motions to dismiss an already dead and dismissed administrative complaint. And then we were like, well, fuck. Let us amend our complaint then if this is not going away. And literally, by the way, nobody would talk to us. We called the clerk, we called the judge, we called the court, we called just about everybody. And we were like, what the fuck's going on? I'd say so, Bean. I would agree with that statement. Oops. This is Judge Benjamin Diener, everybody. Same judge who shipped our defendant, Rick Allen, off to the Department of Corrections without his dutifully owed hearing, without counsel. A man who doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Where am I? Oh, God. Here I am. Motion to dismiss granted. And the court enters an award for attorney fees and costs to be submitted by counsel for your troubles. The just fair and just and gracious Judge Diener. So despite the fact that there was no action commenced, and the no action commenced was also dismissed, and the plaintiffs were forbidden from participating any further in the legal process, and no relief was being sought because we failed to state a claim, which means this is not a lawsuit. It's not a lawsuit. That did not prevent the county from filing appearances for hiring 3 attorneys and their judge colluding with them, and then ordering the plaintiffs of a dismissed complaint to pay attorney fees. So this is where it gets really, really funny. So here's one, $2,700. Yep. And then we were like, you motherfuckers really are going to make us hire an attorney. So we hired an attorney because we had to. Whoop. This is interesting. So we submitted, when I filed our complaint, I e-filed it through the Indiana e-portal. And in there, they have my address. By the way, you have to provide an ID when you file anything. But I opted for e-notices, which means they... I did. I'm a victim of extortion. I opted for e-notification, which means anytime anything is filed, anytime they're going to give notice to a party, I consented that my email e-notice would suffice as notice. They don't have to, whatever. Despite that, and despite them having my email and my address and having Sue's address where she got her mail at the time, they lied. They lied. The court lied. I don't know who was responsible for it, but they never sent us anything. They never tried to send us anything. And I was getting their notices to my email, which is weird. But, oh yeah, and then they subpoenaed us to come to Carroll County and pay our $10.5 thousand worth of attorney fees. So we had a lawyer. Here we go. Order to appear. Hearings set for December 16th at 9 a.m. Interesting. Our attorney filed an appearance and filed a motion to continue it, and they were like, fine. They canceled it because he was like, really, y'all? What are you doing? And then he granted our motion to continue, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, instead of the $10.5 thousand that they were trying to get us to pay, we paid our dues. Here's our adjustment. Okay, this is how much money our attorney knocked off. And we paid it. And we didn't complain. We paid it. Does anyone feel like that's silly? Does it feel kind of silly? I don't know. I am biased because... Okay. I'm trying to decide if I think I'm going to do it this way because I'm taking too long and I'm losing people. Apparently. We already went through that one. Okay, let's look at August. Hi, Lead with Love. Hi. I don't know. That's a great question. He graduated 2002, Toledo University. Okay. That's true. Enough of that. Get me so heated. Okay, August. August was crazy, yo. Can you see this tab, friends? Hi, Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Hi, other Jenny. Hi, both Jennys. Happy you're here. Okay. August 2022. So the Carroll County Sheriff debate happens. Pinkard was the independent candidate who filed to run. He was actually doing pretty remarkably well. He was like fucking spanking Liggett in all of the whatever. People were very, very welcoming and very supportive. And I think that Sorry. Sure. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, we've got the clam jam in here somewhere. Does anybody remember when the clam jam was? The Warbash clam jam? I think it was like around this time in like mid-August, right? I saw eyeballs. I always get nervous when I see eyeballs. Like, what did I do? What leaked now? Oh no, my nudes. I always assume it's the nudes, guys. Clam jam. After the testicle festival in Monticello, the clam jam commenced. I know, crazy, right? Okay. I guess we'll go to September. Okay. September 2022. As our lawsuit is being just fucking shredded to bits. Actually, I'm not going to call it a lawsuit. I'm going to call it a dead complaint. Is being just dug up and buried and dug up again. The corpse of our lawsuit. A lot's happening. So Tony Liggett, just to remind everybody, Tony Liggett is under investigation by the ISP, Anti-Corruption Task Force, the Federal Hatch, the Office of Special Counsel for Federal Hatch Act violations. He is under investigation locally because the election board voted to refer the complaint to the prosecutor, who of course did not do anything with it. He was not having a great summer. This was not hot girl summer for Liggett. This was like sad boy summer for Liggett. He had to suspend his campaigning while he was under investigation. I know. That's what I said too. Anti-corruption. Get the fuck out of here, you guys. Get real. Yeah, so Liggett's sad boy summer is well underway. And he's yes, this is coming up. This is my favorite part. So, lo and behold, as the county is getting ready to siphon $10,500 out of the pockets of the two interlopers, the two instigators, the two meddlers, the two cranks, Tony Liggett's clam jam search did not go well. They were not able to shove the Square Klein connection into the round Delphi murder investigation hole. So I don't know what they were thinking. I do know that, well, I'm going to wait to share that. Oh, I'm not even sharing my screen. I think I'm going to do, yeah, this one. Nope, yes. Yep, that's the one. Okay. So, tip narrative is located on the 21st of September, like manna from heaven. The Rick Allen tip from Dan Doolin just falls into their laps 2 weeks before the county election. Then a week later, the Carroll County Sheriff's debate occurs. But after the debate, Tony Liggett approaches local reporter Debbie Lowe and claims that the special prosecutor's report has just exonerated me of all investigations. He asks her to write an article about it. She's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, you big weirdo?" He was very unkind to her during this exchange. She said she felt very intimidated by him, and he also said, "Why don't you write anything positive about me in your newspaper, Deb?" And she said, "Why don't you give me anything positive to write about you, Tony?" And that's funny. All of this to say, October, the month that the Delphi murder suspect, Richard Allen, is identified and arrested. This is a true statement. Very much so. Love Debbie. Fun fact, 2 weeks after Abby and Libby were murdered, Jerry Holman, Kevin Hammond, and Tony Liggett were sitting in the command conference room talking about who was going to play them in the Delphi murder investigation movie. Maybe later we can take suggestions and send them to them. Oh, I'm not sharing still. I'm sorry, guys. I was going to share. Okay. October. Do you remember? Nope, not September. Mark Pinkert is performing well, and gaining community support. He outperformed Liggett at the debates, high turnout at events, frequent on-the-ground campaigning. On October 3rd, Tony Liggett emails from his personal email a special prosecutor's report to reporter Deb Lowe. Deb Lowe finds before she reports on it, she has to do her due diligence and make sure it's an authentic report and that it's okay that she reports on it, blah, blah, blah. She finds that this entire case, this case that's associated with this prosecutor's report is sealed. The complainants were never notified that there was an investigation occurring. We were never told of any findings. And I have that. Shall we read through it together? Courtney, this is your favorite. Actually, I need to stop for a second. That's funny. This thing gives me like so much. I forgot that I took my keyboard off. Here we go. Okay. Okay. I love this thing. I love it. This is the best thing this is one of the best things that happened. Okay. Hi, Just James. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. No file stamp. No date. No file stamp. Okay. Well. Special Prosecutor John Myers reports. This assignment directed a review of a complaint forwarded to the prosecuting attorney from, that is not my email, that is the wrong email. I don't know whose email that is. Oh God, don't open my email. About the recent Carroll County Sheriff primary election. The matter was assigned to ISP Detective Brandon Bowling, who conducted a thorough investigation. A thorough investigation. The investigation by Detective Bowling, who conducted a thorough investigation, by the way, determined that the email address belonged to Angela Sidlowski. That is some really good investigation, considering I fucking signed the complaint and I gave them my driver's license. But he found out that the email was connected to me, except it's not, because that's the wrong email. She joined with Sue Wright in making the complaint. Neither of them are residents in Indiana. Again, so far, so good, guys. 2 for 2. Complaint. The complainants addressed the recent primary election in Carroll County for the position of sheriff. There were 3 candidates, Tony, Lee, and Mike. Liggett was the winner of the primary. The complaints alleged 5 ways the law was broken, each way alleged from a slightly different perspective that Tony Liggett, Sheriff Tobe Lazenby, and other law enforcement officers violated Indiana code. The claim was that they publicly endorsed and advocated. Indiana code provides, I will share this, y'all can read it. Sheriff Lazenby. Before they referred the complaint to the attorney, they submitted it to the Indiana Election Division. They received a response from Matthew Kochever, co-counsel. This writer also communicated with Mr. Kochever. This writer, meaning presumably Special Prosecutor John Myers, also communicated with Mr. Kochever and received the same explanation of the statute that Mr. Kochever gave the complainants. He explained that it didn't apply to the sheriff, as he was an elected official and not an employee. The problem with this is that we alleged violations against Tony Liggett, who was not an elected official like Mr. Lazenby. Even though an authoritative legal opinion had been given to the contrary, the complainants repeated the accusation that Sheriff Lazenby had committed a crime under the statute. We never did that. The primary evidence to which they point is a photo that was used by Mr. Liggett. A couple of times at least, the advertiser was noted as the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. At least one time in an online ad only. It also gave Sheriff Lazenby's email and phone number. Detective Bowling, coming in clutch. After he found out the source of the mysterious email that was signed with a signature, he investigated that matter. In all instances, he found that Mr. Liggett's campaign paid for the advertisements. Neither the sheriff nor the sheriff's office paid for them. The investigation also found that the note on the advertisement Carroll County Sheriff's Office were mistakenly placed on the advertisement by the publisher and not by Mr. Liggett or Sheriff Lazenby. Interesting. It was an accident, you guys. Okay? Happens. As to deputy sheriffs and other law enforcement officers who endorse Mr. Liggett publicly, there's no legal issue as long as they're not on duty at the time. Okay, well, they were on duty. Hatch Act, the inquiry was made to determine whether any of the deputy sheriffs who appeared in his campaign were funded by the federal government. Sheriff Lazenby stated that none were funded that way. That being the case, none of the deputies were subject to the Hatch Act. They were county employees and not federal employees. This is the most embarrassing misunderstanding / lack of understanding of the Hatch Act for a special prosecutor. The federal Hatch Act applies to local fucking jurisdictions and local employees who receive federal funding from the government, which Carroll County does, as does the sheriff's office. But anyway, he wouldn't be the only one or the first one who reported on this who got it wrong. That's okay. There's no evidence that's been discovered that Mr. Liggett and those assisting used the sheriff's department property to further his campaign. Really? What were they doing in that task force building? Because seems he was campaigning, but whatever. Never know. Hi, DB. It appears Mr. Liggett was conscious that such infringements should not take place.
That's fucking illegal.
After due consideration, the conclusion is that no criminal charges will be filed against Tony Liggett, Sheriff Tobe Lazenby, or any of the deputies. We never asked them to file criminal charges because that's fucking ridiculous, and we're not ridiculous. I mean, we are ridiculous, but like, what an outrageous thing. Misrepresentation. So that was emailed to Deb Lowe. She called the clerk, and the clerk was like, I can't get into this file. I can't see this. There's no file stamp. I don't know what it is. So to this day, this is a sealed document. Sealed. Here you have it, guys. I've leaked it. Except, oh wait. It was already leaked once before by the I thought you were playing the other one. I don't know if I have. Damn, thought I had it. That's okay. An article. So basically, Tony Liggett leaked a sealed fucking investigatory document. Tony Liggett leaked a sealed document in a sealed case illegally to a reporter in the hopes that she would report on this sealed document full of inaccuracies and misrepresentations and pave the way for him in the eye of the public to continue campaigning in the nick of time, because the same day, I have to find this article. I'm sorry, guys. Bear with me for a second. Okay, well, the same day that this woman, a reporter named Amy in White County, she agreed to report on the special prosecutor's report and claims that Tony Liggett has been exonerated, except the Hatch investigation was still underway. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Let's go back to the calendar. Okay. So they published an article. It's full of bullshit. We asked them to retract it. And I emailed the Office of Special Counsel that day and was like, hey, is it true that you cleared Tony Liggett of all Hatch violations? And he was like, no, we've not concluded our investigation. That's not true. So that was a lie. So I posted that email on Tony Liggett's campaign page on the 13th of October, which was also the day that Rick Allen's home was searched. And they collected evidence from his home. Deb Lowe put out an article on the 19th of October reporting on all of this, and it's an excellent article, and that one I do have somewhere. Nope. Okay. I'll share this too eventually. Deb says, after the September 29th sheriff's debate, sheriff candidate and Deputy Tony Liggett provided the comment with a special prosecutor's report that he said exonerated him in regard to the alleged campaign misdoing. The comment told Liggett it didn't know about a special prosecutor or a report. He replied that the report could be found in the court's online service and that it had been sent to those who lodged the allegation, Sue Wright and Angela Sidlowski. When contacted by the comment, Wright and Sidlowski both said they had not received a report from the court. As with all court records provided to the comment, a search was done to verify the case. Searching Odyssey search engine with no success, they contacted the clerk, provided her with the case number, which appears on the document. The clerk responded the cause number represented a locked case and was not available to the public, and she could not comment. They then comment then contacted the circuit court with the cause number, was told the same thing. It was locked. No information could be given to anyone about it. The comment decided at this point to step back and take time to vet the document. Since that time, it has been reported on by other news media. The case was opened in Carroll County in April 2022, which is weird because well, it doesn't matter. In the heading of the document, it reads, primary election investigation. The word election is misspelled. Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby's last name is also misspelled 5 times throughout the document. One of those times was highlighted as a separate category. The document stated the Carroll County prosecutor assigned the complaint made by Angela and Sue to the Indiana State Police Detective Brandon Bowling. Myers wrote in his report that Bowling conducted a thorough investigation. Myers listed the elements of the complaint which ensued from events in the May primary election. He said before the local prosecutor's office was sent the complaint, it was submitted to the Indiana, blah, 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 blah. Myers said there's no legal issue as long as the officers were not on duty at the time. Officers pictured in the advertisement were confirmed to be off duty when the photograph was taken. No confirming sources were listed in the document. Myers went on to address allegations of federal Hatch Act violations. He said none of the deputies were subject to the Hatch Act because they were county employees and not federal employees or federally subsidized employees. In an email to complainant Angela Sidlowski from the U.S. Office of Special Counsel investigating the Hatch Act dated October 13th, it stated, Ms. Sidlowski, thank you for the information. This matter is still under investigation. Once a determination is made, we'll be sure to notify you. The court document given to the comment by Liggett displays no date of when it was filed with the court as completed. It still remains locked, which Indiana Public Access Counselor Luke Britt says believes means sealed as of Tuesday, October 18th at 9 a.m. The document is still not available to the public through Odyssey or the courts. In addition, the comment attempted to find out how much Myers was paid for the special prosecutor's report. Auditor Beth Myers provided Monday a list of invoices from Myers that have been paid by the taxpayers. The complaint was not on the list. Auditor Myers said the invoices for special prosecutors emanate from the court's office and none have been received. So he did it for favor. How nice of him. So many, all attorneys like doing things for free. So make of that what you will. This is a list of grants that Carroll County received. Oops. In 2021. By the way, people that work in grants, I'm sure a lot of people here have experience working in or on or with federal grants that get trickle down into block grants on the state level and then are disseminated locally to different agencies. A block grant that goes to a local agency is still federal money. And grants are not disseminated and granted and awarded each year. A grant cycle is usually like 2 years. Some are 4 years, some are 3 years, some are 18 months. It depends. It's all like determined in whatever the specific grant's for. In 2021, Carroll County got at least 2. We also know they got COVID funds, and we know that those funds went to the prosecutor's office. And the Hatch Act means that even if you don't get the money directly, if you work in tandem or are associated with a program, a department, or a county office or agency that does get federal money, then you are subject to Hatch rules. It's like not complicated. It is complicated, but it's pretty black and white here that federal money is a flowing into Carroll County. I'm having like an allergy attack, by the way, right now. So forgive me if I'm red and stuffy. This is, nope, that's Tony Liggett's campaign finance reports, which, by the way, are really funny. I'll show those later. I could have sworn that I saved, let's see. Here it is. Ah, nope, that's not it. Fuck. Okay, I'm going to move on. Let's go back to our timeline because this is the last thing I wanted to do today. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, I blew my camera out. Share screen. Okay. Can you all see this? Yes. So we are in October 2022. On October 25th, Mike Thomas files a federal lawsuit against the Sheriff's Department. He cites demotion and replacement, i.e. Liggett, and differences in, based on differences in part in how the Delphi investigation should be handled. It's a whistleblower suit. He files a federal whistleblower lawsuit. The next day, Angela Sableski receives a cunty phone call from the U.S. Office of Special Counsel. I am told we found no federal funds associated with the Sheriff's Department and your complaint is unfounded. I said, are you sure? Because I just sent you like 3 federal fund receipts of federal funds. And he said, look, lady, you're knocking on the wrong door. Go away. So that was the end of our, that matter was officially closed. The news starts reporting on Mike Thomas's lawsuit. Something else happened on the 26th of October. Does anyone remember what else happened on the 26th of October? Yeah. Knocking on the wrong door. On the 26th of October, the same day the Hatch attorney tells me to buzz off and refuses to acknowledge that he was wrong and that they didn't actually conduct an investigation. Closing that complaint and paving the way for Tony Liggett to, well, for the task force to make an arrest of one Rick Allen. I also got contacted by a certain podcast on this day. And I am not going to share that correspondence today. But I was contacted by a podcast on the morning of October 26th. And the podcast hosts told us explicitly that they had just spoken to Mr. Liggett. And Mr. Liggett told them directly that Mike Thomas's lawsuit and our lawsuit were connected and that we were filing them in cahoots. Big time. Look into it. Which was not true, by the way. Liggett lied to the podcast hosts on the morning of October 26th, as if Tony Liggett didn't have some more pressing matters to tend to on October 26th. However, he definitely had personal investment in the podcasters negatively reporting and misreporting and lying about the facts of Mike Thomas's and our lawsuit. They did, and they still have, and they continue to. The day that a true thing is reported about our lawsuit will be a good day. So I don't know. What do you think, guys? A wild turn of events, huh? Tony Liggett needed to be sheriff. Something awful. And I can't imagine why it was so important to him to be sheriff. Because what would have happened? Think about what would have happened if an outsider like, I don't know, Mark Pinkard, I have to sneeze again, came in and took over and was elected. So Mark Pinkard was like a 30-year veteran of, I want to say he was with West Lafayette Police Department. He's a detective. I would imagine that if Mark Pinkard were elected sheriff and Mark Pinkard became the authority that oversaw the agency in charge of the Delphi murder investigation, as things that we have learned as the public in the past few months have become clear through filings by the defense, etc., and hearings, Mark Pinkard probably would have been equally horrified as we have been with how this investigation was handled or not handled. And I think, as they say, like, heads would probably roll, right? That would not have been good to have like an outsider come in and, sorry, I'm reading all your comments. I have a big screen I can read them on. This is exactly right. Do you guys remember? I feel like this is I'm gonna spend another minute here. We're gonna honor this. We're gonna honor what I just said about, I think maybe we should pay another minute too before I show you a Choo Choo Crime Tube video. It's insane the amount of collusion, a successful collusion. And you have to wonder why Benjamin Diener was so invested in assisting in basically like acting like a mafia boss. You know, you're not supposed to punish pro se civil litigants for exercising and participating in the legal process, whether or not you think it's stupid, whether or not they have standing to do so, which of course we didn't. Or maybe we did. Why was Ben Diener so willing and enthusiastic and personally offended by our lawsuit? What does he care? He's a judge. He's supposed to be impartial. What does Judge Diener, like, what investment does Judge Diener have in fixing a lawsuit and then retaliating against two pro se civil litigants whose complaint, by the way, he fucking dismissed? It's just weird. And then you have to wonder, well, this is the same judge who banished a pretrial constitutionally innocent man to prison to die, basically. So I have a lot of questions for Judge Diener. I feel like Judge Diener is someone that we need to talk to. What do you guys think? Think you would talk to me? I would. I would talk to Diener. This is so true. Diener's no longer a judge. I think he can be deposed. Yeah. I certainly would love to hear what he has to say. Yeah. I want to show y'all something. I wonder if I can do it on here. That is so fucking funny to me. It'll never not be funny. Oh my god. How am I? Oh, okay. No. Yeah. This serves no, the purpose of this video is not to further the dialogue. It's not. It's just because I'm gross and I'm about to simp for Mark Pinkard, so y'all can just join me. Hold on.
Look.
I'm so sorry. Ah! Okay. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Don't be a stinker. There's one other thing I think I wanted to show y'all, but I don't know where I put it. Should I? Can I? I don't know if I'll be able to. I'm gonna try though. You guys are being really nice. Thanks for bearing with me. That was chaotic, and I left a lot out, and it's just like a whole mess. But I appreciate y'all. Oh my god. Okay. Where's this video? I'm trying to figure out how the best way to do this is. Okay. I got too many screens, y'all. I wonder if I saved it. Do I need to do it? No. I don't need a hint. I need... Thank you for your support. Oh, here it is. Ha! Okay, this is a video. It's only 2 minutes long. And I made it on October 29th, 2021, or at least that's the day that I saved it. And this was back when I was still looking at Carroll County through a trauma lens, I want to say. Ish. I found it the other day, and it just kind of like the way that I made this video versus the way that my videos are now. I think it just speaks to like the paradigm shift, if I can say that. I really hate what goes on in Carroll County. I joke about it a lot, and I think we have to, because we all have shared communal trauma from following this case. But I really, like, I take this shit personally because it doesn't just impact Abby and Libby's families, although it certainly does. You know, it doesn't just impact Galen Rose. It impacts everybody that lives there. And I would argue that crime, I mean, the only people responsible for what happened to Abby and Libby are the people that killed Abby and Libby, but I just think that when the police are accountable to nobody and they break the law regularly and they care more about themselves and their own interests than they actually do like about the public. I mean, if you look, it is near impossible to get financial records and statements from Carroll County, even though they're all public. it's very difficult. But when you do, you see how much money they pour into law enforcement, their own, like, their buildings, their fucking park programs. And like, there's a place, Carroll Manor. It's like a senior, it's a nursing home basically. It's broke. Like, they don't put any money towards anything for their citizens or for their community. There's like very minimal mental health support in Carroll County. It's like, I don't know. It just makes me mad. I hope that I can actually, after all this, oh, here it is. Yeah, this is a really good point. 100%. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try. Okay. Don't.
And this breaking news, two 13-year-old girls are missing from Carroll County this morning.
Where
They
are
disappeared
Libby and
yesterday
Abby?
afternoon.
These two teen girls have not been spotted in nearly 24 hours.
Feed, because everyone who knows these two young women is desperately hoping to find them. Right now, though, the search has been suspended while it's been dark. Police, though, telling
Honestly,
us they do
I hope they're just hidden up somewhere, scared to be in trouble.
Getting cold. Been out a long time. They don't know what time they ate last.
Missing, abducted, we don't know for sure.
I just want her home.
The community.
Thank you for telling me. Oh my gosh. Hey, I. Mute, mute, mute. Always and forever. Doing boomer things. I know, really. I'm sorry. Y'all are so funny. I like how the messages come in like on a delay. So each one, it's like, no, you guys are the best. Because I would still be talking and muted if you didn't tell me. So thank you. I was asking, but how do you grieve something like this if you live there, or if you don't, if you're a family member, if you're not? Like, I just don't know what. You know, I have to think that, like, on some level, the task force and investigators, they had to. Nobody wants to arrest someone they believe is innocent, right? So they convinced themselves that they had the right guy, or one of them. Yeah. this is kind of where I'm at now. I said something. This is exactly it. When you've been doing something a certain way for so long, it stops being, it's just the norm. It's like, it's their MO. It's automatic. I don't think that they wake up every day and like twirl their snidely whiplash mustaches and plan to be corrupt, evil villains. I think that it's just the way that they've been doing things for so long that they don't really know another way. And when another way is presented to them, they're not interested. Because it's going to disrupt their, because they benefit from operating like a mafia and from treating the public like the public is somehow indebted to them. Yeah. And I try and give the benefit of the doubt because people get tired of hearing us like just constantly be so negative and critical. But I mean, I fail to think of like one thing that the investigation has done well. Truly. I think that one of their biggest secrets is that they didn't do shit to investigate this crime. And when I talked the other night, about Nick McClellan going before the council asking for money, he had a discovery deadline in 2 days. He was freaking out. That was a man in a crisis. And it just reminded me of like, he had an impossible task ahead of him, which was to come up with 6 years of evidence and organize it and provide it to the defense. It was not going to happen. They didn't have it. I don't even want to know what their evidence like collection and organization. We know that they didn't even have a process for cataloging it. How do they even know what they have? The actual people that killed these Libby and Abby are probably sitting in a file somewhere in their task force building, and they don't even fucking know. Unless they already have them. Because we know that some very, very convincing third-party suspects are 100%. Hey, Meow, I think if that's really you, I love you. If it's someone not you impersonating you, then I still love Meow. Somebody said, I remember where I was watching that on the news. When they were missing. That was interesting to me because I can't okay, good. I mean, can't imagine. They did expect the killer to fall into their lap. And he did, except it wasn't the killer. Oh my god, I thought that said 3 hours for a second, and I was like, you get off. Hi, DB. Or not. You remember it too. You don't have to tell me if you're local, but is this important, DB? If it is, I'll pause and I'll assist you. Is this important? Let me know. Maybe. Don't go away, y'all. Or you can go. You can go if you want. It's up to you. Anyway. So that was the story of the kamikaze mission that was our not lawsuit that cost us almost $10,500. And I would like the record to show that I would do it again in a second. I have no regrets. I'm proud of it. I wish it wasn't necessary, and I wish that it got the attention it deserved. The meaningful attention, because they still have not investigated what we know they were doing. And I'm sorry, y'all. That's nice. So what do we think is going to happen? Are we going to have a trial in October? I would be really shocked if we did. But I hope for the defendant's sake that it happens if they're ready. I think the best thing would be to not have trial, because innocent men shouldn't go to trial. Innocent men should not have to go to a trial. Innocent men certainly shouldn't be held in the Department of Corrections, and Rick Allen is innocent. Says me. You heard it here first. Rick Allen is innocent. Thanks. I'm proud of everybody here. No, but really, it's like the fact that we, yeah, Rick's not going to plea, though. They want us to think he's going to plead, but he's not going to plead. Innocent men don't plead guilty to murder. They just don't. I agree with you, Digital. I'm very worried for Rick. I worry at this point every day. And I worry for Kathy. You're right, Judge Jessica. Bean, you want to come up? You don't have to, but I'll send you the thing if you want to. It's my fucking boy. Damn. Try again. There you go. Sent it to you, Bean, on Twitter. Yeah. He didn't, though. That's pretty crazy, you know? I mean, when I think about I just can't think about it. If Yellow or DB could respond to me, that would be good. If you're still in here, please. You know, Criminal Network, I agree with you, but my beef is with Holman now. I still have beef with Liggett, but Jerry Holman is the Dean is saving me from myself right now.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I got confused because it said All Eyes on Delphi, and then I thought it was like a different channel.
It did say All Eyes on Delphi. Hello, Fiend. Welcome. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to our channel. It's our channel.
What's up?
How's it going?
Pretty good. I enjoyed the origin story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something. It's something else. Thanks for hanging out.
I think it's interesting to just kind of think about what was simultaneously happening as far as some of the media and the narratives when all that same stuff was happening. Because there was a lot of noise about the Klein stuff. Like a lot. And like that doesn't, like, when you look at how it was simultaneously happening, it just seems a little bit more than coincidental that like there was multiple fronts pushing that.
Well, I didn't put this on the timeline I shared today, but after the clam jam was going to fail, Tony Liggett sped like a bat out of hell to Peru, went to the home of a relative of Kagan Klein, and basically, like, I don't want to say he threatened them, but it was an older relative, and he basically pulled a Jerry Holman and was like, "You tell us everything you know." She was so unsettled and afraid that she called the Carroll County Sheriff's Department and asked for like a police for them to like have a police officer posted outside in their neighborhood because they were terrified of, like, I don't know what he told them. And Carroll County was like, "Well, you're in Miami County, you have to call your sheriff." And they were like, "But it was your detective who was here." Like, all of that to say, just fucking frantic, like running around like crazy people trying to like force something, I think is how it reads to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that context, you can kind of see like where a new lead presents itself and you overcommit to it prematurely.
Yeah. $1 million worth. Although Kagan was a new lead, but he wasn't really, right? Didn't they?
Well, I mean the lead that happened after that.
Oh, right, yeah. So what is your theory about like why? Like, I don't know how to ask it, but like what do you like what the fuck happened, do you think, in October?
Like how he got on the radar?
And then
I think that, like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's strange. I think that it gets a little bit conspiratorial. I mean, I think that like the simplest explanation is, you know, they said time and time again they were going to go back and look at old tips and start from the beginning. And I think that every time they said that, they were completely lying and they didn't actually do that. And I think the simplest explanation is somebody did actually go back and be like, well, shit, we totally missed. Like, what about this? We didn't even know about this. And it was just the first thing that they came across.
Yeah.
Because it was very early.
Yeah.
And it's something they should have known all along. I mean, I think that they really, really banked on somebody just knowing enough to really, really, like, rat on somebody.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that was their whole, like, all their chips were on that was going to happen. But like, it was a really bad strategy because they didn't give the public enough to make that ever happen. Like, you couldn't tell anything from the video frames. You couldn't tell anything from the voice. You couldn't tell anything from the sketches.
No.
And then they didn't give you any other information. They didn't tell you like anything about like, this might be a hunter. This might be somebody that has a firearm, you know, like, or this type of firearm. Like, how helpful would that type of information have been for somebody that may have known something to put two and two together?
Right.
But they didn't provide that.
No, they didn't. They still haven't either. Like, I remember
I complain about this all the time. I have zero idea what the state's theory of the crime is.
No idea.
From the charges to Rick Allen's involvement to like what they actually think happens from a timeline from when they died, like how they died. I have zero idea what they're saying. No idea. Because they haven't stated it. They've never stated any of those basic things. So, and people want to say, well, they're waiting for the trial. Well, I'm not super convinced of that.
Yeah. Well, and they also, but like, they can't wait till the trial. They can't just like present a brand new and they
I mean, obviously the defense team is going to have everything that they're like, all the damning stuff, and if you have these pre-trial like litigation, where they're like, if you don't hear from the state, you're going to hear about it from the defense. And I mean, I think that on both sides, like more often than not, we hear about like what the other side's doing from the other side.
Right.
Like we see what they're pushing back on. They see what they want. They want a motion to eliminate for. Like we can tell like that's important to them.
Yeah.
But like but we know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think like you have to start speculating because there's so much physical evidence that was initially gathered and processed, and it seems that none of that is relevant to this case, which like this is an instruction to jurors as well as just common sense, is that you are to infer from a lack of evidence what you can infer from that. So, what I infer from that is like, well, I don't know that this is the right guy because all this evidence that you should have,
you don't.
Like, it doesn't point to this guy because you're not bringing it into this case, and it's not just going to magically appear without like either side ever mentioning it.
Yeah. It's just baffling to me, like the lack of evidence is. Because they've talked about.
I mean, with some of the stuff that's gone on, like with the videos being deleted, the interviews being deleted, and like other videos deleted across like a large number of days, and like the lack of organization as far as discovery and the problems with turning over discovery, like, I mean, I do wonder if there's something more going on with that, and like knowing what we know about like what happened with a lot of the Flora evidence, like I do wonder if like maybe the physical evidence met a unfortunate end some way somehow,
like got destroyed.
Yeah, there's some spoliation or like destruction of evidence, not necessarily intentionally at all, but like whether that maybe happened, because it seems odd that all this physical evidence wouldn't be factored into your case some way somehow. Like you have to try to make it fit.
Yeah, and I mean that happens like in a lot of cases, probably like in every case. I'd say that there's some kind of like evidence spoilation, whatever you said. Evidence gets contaminated or lost or destroyed, like on some level. I think that shouldn't happen frequently, but like it happens. Like
it's not unheard of. I mean, it does happen, and it isn't always considered that's a reason to dismiss the case, but it just seems strange that none of it's really factoring in.
Yeah, and like for years they've said we're keeping it close to the chest because we don't want false confessions, because crazy people make false confessions. And it's like, but that's all their evidence is. Like I just can't get over the fact that their evidence in chief, like their main evidence, was obtained months after their suspect was in custody.
Yeah, like, I mean that's a big problem for me. Just thinking through it is like, what did you have beforehand, and what do you have since then, and what's like what are the pillars of your case? And so much of it has like you've basically manufactured out of thin air. You didn't have this stuff before, and what is it? It like I mean, we still don't know what it is. You know, there's these incriminating statements or confessions or admissions. Like, we don't know any of the details or the words. And, like, you know, we know that the conditions under which they were obtained were not ideal. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. You know, I'd weigh it a certain amount, but I wouldn't weigh it like definitively.
Right. Well, and it's the totality of the confessions. I think it matters. You know, I don't think that the individual cherry picking of confessions is appropriate. You know, if he's
DB's mad.
Oh well. Stay mad, DB. What's he mad about now? Why? Because you're here and he's not. He has FOMO.
Yeah,
everyone's concerned about him.
You're my new co-host.
Well, you snooze, you lose, buddy. I just pulled your bitch, DB. You're not a bitch fiend, but for purposes of that, I did. So, but like, you think that they're gonna try and exclude and admit like individual versus the totality?
It really seems that that's what they're trying to do. Is that? I mean, it seems both sides are trying to do that. Really, that.
Yeah. Well, I think the defense would very much like to just not admit.
Oh
anything,
yeah, the defense would obviously like to have none of them in. That would be highly preferable.
Right.
But I do think it's. I don't know. I mean, I think the part of the problem for the state is that, you know, you'd much prefer to just have your quote unquote good confessions in, the ones that like match enough that like they're compelling, and the ones that might be total gibberish, like you don't actually want those in, and they've kind of requested that, you know, that they want to pick and choose, but you do have to like you're kind of required to you know, divulge that those other ones exist as well, like because those could be considered exculpatory. So, you know, they would get themselves into a problem if they tried to hide from the defense that, okay, you know, we've got these 20 statements that we really want to use, but these other 40 we don't want to use.
Yeah, that's exactly
like
what
so don't tell the defense about those 40. No, you get in a lot of problems with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like so it's not satisfying. I was bitching earlier to Courtney and DB about how, like, and I think a lot of, at least some people in here probably, but like I lean towards innocence always, just because I think that the state, who has all the advantage and all the power and all of the upper hand, ought prove guilt, right? Novel, I know. But if I were holding out, you know, for some kind of action, I just don't think that confessions should be admissible. I just don't. I think that in general, confessions are more problematic than they are legitimate or helpful. There's way too much research now about contamination of confessions, about the reasons behind why people confess. I mean, it's just not, it's not a satisfying conclusion to an investigation. It's not convincing. And if a confession is not something that like either leads to like a body or more evidence or crucial evidence, like not just like in line with the crime, because contamination makes it impossible to know if that's a legitimate confession or not. But like if your confession yields something like fruitful, fine. But even then, like you have to have fucking evidence. And in my opinion, a confession should not be evidence. And the weight that it's given in trial.
Well, I mean, it's not evidence.
Right. It shouldn't be.
I mean, it's not evidence at all. You know, the words aren't evidence.
Right. But
and I would see a place to like bring confessions or incriminating statements, admissions, like into a case. But like, I think that they would be a very supplemental thing. You know, that, you know, you've also got, you know, this is just to like shore up your case, not to make your entire case. That seems
the burden should be impossibly high, in my opinion, to admit something like a confession, especially a confession that's obtained after a certain amount of time incarcerated. Like, I just don't, I feel like these are just things that are too, it's just like a wrongful conviction waiting to happen. I think confessions are so inherently problematic, and they're lazy. Like, that's your case, that's your confession, I did it. You're never going to know who or what or why. Like, and there's people that are just satisfied. They say 61 confessions. What more do you want? And it's like, you don't even fucking know. First of all, that's true. Second of all, what they were, and if any of them pan out. And if you, like, I think there's a reason that these confessions have not been, like, they were transcribed, is what McClellan said in the motion to the defense about them. He said they were made over the phone, and then the state had them transcribed and provided to the defense. But, and I imagine that's because they didn't legally have the calls yet. They had to actually subpoena them later on. But hearing and seeing somebody in psychosis make an admission or a confession is something very different than just reading it on a piece of paper, you know? And
well, I mean, that's a big question too. I mean, this narrative that, like, you know, he's got a guilty conscience and he wants to confess and he wants to plead guilty, but, you know, they're not letting him, or like, that seems very, very silly. And it's, you know, if that's the case, like, where's a really solid written confession, detailed written confession from this guy?
they don't have one. They say they have one to the, what did they say? They said they had one to the
chaplain thing. I mean, I don't know. Like, well, something's completely protected and you're not going to have access to it. You know, what people do is they completely imagine and make up what it might say. Like, it could say anything.
Well, but they can't find it. They're like, oh, it exists, but they can't find it.
Well, it wouldn't be, I don't think that would be admissible as one of the things
No.
that would be, like, protected. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, you know, I think that when you talk about, like, the psychosis and, you know, the drugs that they're putting them on and the behavior issues and, you know, the testimony of Dr. Walla, like, you know, I think it gives a lot of pause for concern about, I mean, a normal person, you know, like, yeah, maybe their confessions would be kind of meaningful, but, like, what was his words and actions the rest of this time that don't include these tiny little snippets? Like, was he just going completely crazy and saying crazy stuff all the time?
Yes.
Like, I kind of think he probably was.
Yeah.
And then you've just cherry picked some stuff, you know, that, like, obviously, like, he's been accused of some of these things. So, like, whether somebody might ramble about those sorts of things seems not out of question at all.
Right. So yeah, the letter to the chaplain that allegedly exists and the letter to the warden saying, I want to confess these things that allegedly exist or existed at one time wouldn't be admissible. But the problem is that they're already, like, McClellan has already put them in motions and spoken of them as if they exist. So they might as well have been admitted, like, to the public, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's been happening again and again and again and again in this case, where they gag everybody, but then the state has all of the latitude in the world to go in a hearing or in a public motion and
well, I mean, they haven't really gagged everybody, and, like,
right, they've tried.
The gag is that overbroad as it is.
Oh my god, it's
so
entirely
it probably doesn't apply to some of the people that they're pretending it applies to, but then it certainly doesn't apply to lots of other people. I don't know how they've gotten everybody to, like, you know, in any other case, like, there would be, like, a full-blown media investigation into the suspect, and they dig up everything about him, and that has not happened one little bit in this case.
Why?
Why? Well, I mean, it's collusion. It's state and media collusion.
It's infuriating.
So, I mean, I mean, it's understandable. The people that would know something and that would talk, either they've, if they're important enough, they've probably been asked by law enforcement to not talk, even though they're not gagged. And then, the media has been told, don't go looking. And they're happy to comply with that.
It's such a fucking bummer, though, dude.
Oh, it sucks. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you imagine any, like I said, Brian Koberger, like we know everything about that guy, like, because the media isn't like suppressed in that way. They're happy to go get that information, dig it up. In this case, they won't dig up a single thing about Richard Allen. We don't know anything about him. He's essentially a ghost.
Yeah, I know. And they don't want us to humanize him at all. Like, the video, I don't know if you saw it, I played it the other night. It was just Andy and Brad outside of the November 2022 hearing. And nothing, Jessica. It shouldn't be different at all, but it is, and it sucks. Andy was asked, like, how's your client doing? And he was like, I don't want to go wayward of the judge or anything. And it's like, so even then, like, why would he say that about any other client? He'd probably say he's like, whatever. It's just, it's
well,
like,
I mean, so for the attorneys, the gag certainly does apply. So, I mean,
but that's not evidentiary. That's not evidentiary.
Yeah, you know I mean, I think that they would have to be careful.
It's so fucked up, though. You have a right to the presumption of innocence, and everything that the state has done has been prejudicial as fuck. And then to the point where, like, they don't even want us to know that Rick Allen's having a hard time, that he misses his wife. Like, God forbid he's humanized at all. It's so frustrating. Also, Elvis confessed. And his confession was way better than Rick's.
Yeah, as far as what we know about it, yeah. I mean,
right.
I don't know. It's I think it's. I thought José's like memorandum, the recent one, was basically lobbying to deny the motion in limine, like basically outright. I thought it added like a significant amount, and I think it's kind of telling that, I mean, like, we don't have access to like all this discovery and all this evidence and information, and the defense team does. And whether you like their theory or not, I think that they're the ones that are in the best position to put forth a theory. And they've built on this like continually. And I mean, I don't find it not compelling. Like, I think that when they say that, hey, we really think these people are involved, at this point, what am I comparing that to? The state doesn't have a theory at all, except it just pointing at one guy and saying that this guy did it and did what? Well, we're not going to say. Okay, well, so you don't have a theory at all. And on the other side, on the other hand, you've got starting to get a very fleshed out theory of like very specific people, very specific things, like circumstantial evidence that really like points in their direction, and it's detailed out. So I don't think that's not compelling.
It's extremely compelling.
I think that's what they're worried about. I mean, it's probably going to sound compelling to a jury.
It's incredibly compelling, and the states,
why they want it tossed. They don't want it in there at all.
Yeah, the way that the state has handled these third-party, even just the suggestion of third-party guilt they've just absolutely unraveled. They've totally spiraled. They're acting like, I mean, a third-party guilt defense is like one of the most standard, common defenses. So you can't defend against, like, the state can't put on a case and stand on its own if the defense puts on a defense. Basically, they can't They can't allow the defense to put on any semblance of a defense, or else they're fucked.
I mean, that was basically the argument that OJ was making, and I thought that it was like, I think she did a really good job as far as
I did too.
her writing it up.
Yeah, I agree. I thought she was great. Yellow said that watching her like in what's it called? In the hearings was really like cool. And that she just like knew her shit and was like, I don't know, really good.
Yeah, it's really interesting because they initially brought her in because of her TUI experience, and like they didn't know how to like they didn't know the process to like depose federal agents.
Yeah,
and she like had some specific knowledge about how to do that, and some stuff as far as like going like cell phone data type of stuff as well. But like, you know, she's obviously far more capable than that. Like, she's an excellent writer, and you know, and she's completely caught up on the case and like shoring up, like, you know, like what their theory was, and you know, supplementing it like a substantial amount, and like adding important pieces that kind of like build it up. So I don't know. I'll be really interested to see how Gell handles the motion in limine, where it's just completely denied or completely approved, or if it's like, you know, kind of 50-50 and some things are in and some things are out.
I can see her approving it outright, but that's just because I'm cynical.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to lean towards being totally cynical and just saying she's going to deny everything.
Yeah.
I think that she sometimes does put in the thought towards stuff, and so I think it's likely that she'll rule on it before Friday. And
what makes you think? Oh, because the hearing.
Well, yeah, because it's a status hearing, so it's kind of silly to have a status hearing and everybody goes in there and be like, "Well, we're waiting on the judge. That's the status." Like both sides are going to say that, because the ruling on the motion in limine like impacts both sides dramatically. Like, either you have to prepare for this type of defense, or the defense has to come up with something completely different. And that's where I think, like, hey, you know, that's also where I would lean towards, hey, you might see a motion for continuance, because if you get complete approval of the motion,
what are they going to do?
Is completely granted, you know, what's the defense going to say? They're going to say, well, that was our entire case.
I think they'll do it
we're going to need more time because you just pulled the rug from under us. And I think that's not without cause. I think, you know, I think even a biased judge is going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, obviously, I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I think if she approves it, or if she grants it outright to the state, I could see the defense filing an interlocutory appeal, right?
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't. I'm not
Me
sure.
too.
I'm surprised, but not an interlocutory appeal, but
just another writ.
I've been because it came from like third-party attorneys, like outside attorneys previously.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't necessarily have to happen. They just might not be experienced with it, but I think that they've made a pretty substantial case for the prejudice and bias, and I think that enough things have changed that, like, if you put it in front of the Supreme Court, I think you've got a fair shot that they would rule differently than they did last time. But and they could do that themselves. They don't have to have somebody else step in and do it for them.
But so why haven't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. I don't know either.
I mean, it might be that they're not as experienced dealing with the Supreme Court, which I think that was where it was helpful to have outside attorneys that were experienced with that, you know, lend their aid.
Yeah. Or they think that it'll just get denied, or they think that it won't even get, they have to accept it. They might not accept. I don't know, but just not. They can't have a trial with Gall presiding. Like, I hope that everybody understands that. There will be no fair trial with Gall on the bench, in my opinion. I just don't think that there can be. And what is the fucking deal with her at this point? Like, she is so... The inevitable appellate issues now. Like, what? I don't get it. I don't get it.
And that might be another factor that just, I mean, the defense team has to think about like potential appeal as well. And, in certain ways, it might be better that you have this obviously biased judge where like a lot of things went very poorly throughout the process, like, because it kind of like shores that up a little bit. I mean, you kind of have to, you weigh your pros and cons.
So
if they don't think it's like gonna be successful, then yeah, you're making things worse with her. Possibly, she's just gonna be more biased against you.
He's not going to survive an appeal. It sounds awful, but I just feel like this is not, despite me like harping on how this is just like every other case, it's not special. The circumstances of with the defendant are unique, and I just don't feel like they should be treating this case and their defense in this case as if it's like the rules do not apply here. And I just feel like they should be throwing everything that they have at this. I just know that I don't know. It's easy to like Monday morning quarterback when you're not an attorney, and you're certainly not an attorney in a double murder case. But
right, I get a little bit annoyed by the Monday morning quarterback.
But I'm gonna do it anyway. I
don't know. I wouldn't pretend. I think that the defense team appears to be doing like a pretty decent job of like from most things. The only thing that I think that like I'll identify one mistake that I think that they made, because that to have her the lazy judge thing.
Yeah.
I think a little bit more research that could have easily been successful if they'd like identified it and executed it correctly. And I think it would have gone through. I don't think they would have saved her from it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a very procedural thing, and the reason it was denied, it would get denied for anybody. But if they had not done one little thing, if they'd done something different, like I think it would have gone through. So, but like, it's kind of an obscure thing. It's not something that like everybody's familiar with. Like, even attorneys.
I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't.
No. I mean, like, even the attorneys, like anybody should have been able to tell us that, like, all the attorneys that like follow this case, as soon as it was filed, that, with a couple of hours of research, they should have been able to tell us this will absolutely be denied, and this is the reason it'll be denied, and like to the letter, like that should have been possible. Like, I could have done it if I'd like just been a little bit more motivated and read through them a little bit more.
Don't you think that they would have done it anyway, though, even knowing that it'd be denied, just so that they had like more ammunition, I guess, for...
I don't think that really has any impact. Like, I think it's just a side quest that didn't do anything.
Fiona, I have to pee. I'm gonna be right back. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, but I gotta do it. I'll be right back.
The chat was right.
Yes, they...
All right, this is my channel now. Criminal Network says, in order for the trial to happen, third party or not, the state has to prove RA is BG and said down the hill with the witnesses Carbaugh and Blair and are not pointing to RA. I mean, see, this is where I would completely disagree. Like, you know, I don't think that like that's based on like the PCA, like that's what you would think their case is, and that's what needs to match up. But like they've not really stated as much so far. I think eventually in one filing they did say that they think RA is BG, but you know, just hypothetically, you know, none of these people have to see BG or BG be anybody for it to be Rick Allen. I mean, like none of this evidence has to point for it to, like, it could all still be wrong and it still could be him. Like, but you would think that there would be some evidence that would point towards him. Like, there has to be something. If that's all you got, yeah, you're trying to make that work. But like, I don't think they have to. I don't think that has to be the case. I think they're open, and essentially not going to be the case. Like, you know, we know what the pillars of the state's case are most likely to be, and the weakest pillar is, you know, what these witnesses say. Like, I think that hardly matters at all. I think that you're going to bring in the cartridge and say that it matches, and then you're going to bring in the confessions, and like I think they're just really, really hoping that's going to be enough to convince a jury. You know, you got a terrible crime, and you've got somebody that's arrested for it, and they're hoping that that's really going to be enough. I think that a lot of that stuff is going to get picked apart. You know, I definitely see how the defense is going to be picking these things apart, and like the witness stuff is just like it's very weak. I think that's not gonna, on cross examinations, that's gonna be not very strong. I mean, what I would really don't know is how is the state going to defend themselves from like all the accusations of, you know, how terrible this investigation was. Like, what are they supposed to say for themselves? Like, that's the part. Like, I think they've got a real problem as far as when you bring up like how poorly this all went. Like, what is the state going to say for themselves? Just oops, everything got deleted. I don't know. Maybe they're just really hoping that, you know, the judge saves them, and like, you know, you're not allowed to mention that all these interviews got deleted. Maybe you're not allowed to mention like what they actually investigated in the investigation of how much they looked at Keegan Klein and Ron Logan and you know, the Norse paganism. You know, that they're hoping that the judge is going to save them from some of that stuff, because if you're not saved from it completely, you know, you're going to be asking all these witnesses about what they did with their investigation, and like it's going to come into the trial.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know what they're going to say, honestly. I think they're just going to deflect and virtue signal and do all the things they always do. It's going to be really frustrating.
Well,
are you going to try and go?
Yeah, I might go to the Friday one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll probably have to do what they've got practice doing. I mean, it's the same reason that they had, like, the same thing they did, you know, the 5 years that nothing happened. You know, they'll make excuses and say how many tips they got, and there's a lot to go through, and they're following up on it. You know, it's really hard, and you know, they're waiting for that one piece. But it's such a silly like narrative, because their one piece was a piece at the very beginning. Like, they weren't waiting on, like, what the piece that they ended up using isn't something that they were ever waiting on. Like, they had it right from the start. I mean, I wonder how many other people they don't know were at the trails, and how many other witnesses of people that were at the trails that they never followed up with and talked to. I think it's probably a lot. And that's right, Major Ray. That's exactly what they just wanted someone to be like, it was my dad. He told me he did it, and I have the proof, and I got the jacket in the closet, and here we go. They were just waiting for that, and they're like, well, that's a dumb thing to wait on. Go out and do the work, do the investigation. It's not going to be handed to you. And as far as we know, like, it didn't get handed to them, Rick Allen didn't get handed to them. It's something that they internally dug up because they had it all along. And yeah, I
don't know if I believe that. I mean, I think you're right. I know. So sorry. I'm also an active listener, which is just like a kind way of saying, like, I'm really annoying because I like listen but talk. So it's not a terrible thing when I'm muted when someone else is talking, because it's just me making noise. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. I do that in therapy a lot. I like mute myself and I just kind of like, yeah, for sure. It's annoying. It's annoying. Like, active listening can be annoying.
You're fine.
Anyway, Thien. Yeah, I was thinking about your white whale of what is the state's theory, right? Like, what the fuck is their theory? And I don't know. I was thinking about that today. What is their theory?
I mean, I hear lots of like pro prosecution or quote unquote pro prosecution people, and they'll say it's obviously that Rick Allen is a lone wolf killer. He did it by himself. He did it in this time frame, from this time to this time. He didn't go back to the scene. Which, again, I don't know. I'm gonna bring this up just because I think it's so funny that like this was one of these weird rumors that like that just persisted of like, Rick Allen did it, and then he came back in the middle of the night, riding on a Harley Davidson or whatever, on a motorcycle, and like, he's messing around at the crime scene, and lo and behold, you have this like one thing that like pops up with this phone turning on at 4:30 a.m., 4:33 a.m., which like would be the one thing that like you could point to and say, look, we were right all along. Like that fits that perfectly. Except now that's completely vanished. Like nobody brings that up. That they're like, no, it can't. That's impossible. It's impossible. The phone turned back on. Like Rick Allen didn't go back to the scene. That's ridiculous. It's almost like they're not even thinking for themselves. And I don't know where they're getting these crazy fucking rumors, because I don't know. It seems weird. It's really weird.
It's really weird. It's almost like they're coming from someone or somewhere, and they're all just
you start building on stuff, and I think that's like one thing that like I've kind of just noticed of like what is up with that rumor that everybody loved. Like,
I don't know.
It's perfect right now, and like it's just gone. It's gone.
Well, they have different marching orders now. Now I sound like a conspiracy theorist.
I don't know, man. I'm just I think that there's might be something to that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. Well, Coleman calls YouTubers all the time.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the sort of thing where I'm like, hey, that narrative was convenient, but now that narrative is not convenient. So that narrative that never existed, and now, let's say the exact opposite of what we said before.
Right, and hope no one notices, or just be like, well, that was just an investigative strategy. What's a fucking lie? I guess it's not a very good one, but it seems like it's their only one.
But yeah, and whatever. Like the thing is, like as much as any of the, the quote unquote pro prosecution people, the Rick Allen guilty people, like they think they know what the state's theory is. The state hasn't said that. That's the problem. The state has not outlined that at all. You're like inferring what it might be, but like that shouldn't really be necessary. They're perfectly capable of putting out their theory and like starting to build on it and making it, building their case and make it more and more solid.
Yeah, you'd think so. They've had enough
You would
time to
think
do it.
so. That's the typical thing that would happen in a case. You'll see, like, usually both sides fleshed out, but often, the prosecution side, the state side, is ends up being more and more fleshed out. And like when you go into a trial, like well, oftentimes, people are relatively assured that this is probably the right guy just because they know enough of the case. Like in this case, like I have zero idea what they think.
I think that they think that I don't know what they think.
I mean,
because
I don't know what they think. I just like if they're so sure that he's a lone wolf killer, then don't be charging him with felony murder. That's silly. It doesn't even make any sense. Like, there's only one thing he can be guilty of if he's the only person involved.
the whole thing is stupid. That's what I think. I think that
it is kind of stupid.
They really thought that this person was going to walk in and like just turn himself in, like, or that somebody was going to turn them in, like one missing piece, and they would like lambast the public, like they were like mad that someone hadn't turned him in yet. You know what I mean? As if killers. Oh God, I saw this and these are not skinny jeans, first of all. But whatever happened to this guy? I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Some people it's disappear.
It's one of the least skinny jeans ever. I resent that. I don't remember what I was gonna say, Fiend. Oh, yes, I do. It was like they were like mad that the public hadn't turned in the killer, like as if a killer of 2 girls is like telling people that he did it, or like if it was more than one person, as if they're like going, or like, what a bad way to conduct an investigation.
Well, I mean, I think that's the long and short of it. That it wasn't really an investigation. It was just hoping that someone was gonna turn in, like, somebody, like, certainly somebody out there has to know who did it, and that person is gonna rat this person out, which I think is, a very flawed premise.
It's just so stupid.
It's so stupid.
It's so stupid. It's funny too. I mean, it's not funny, but like,
and we know it didn't work. Like we know all of it didn't work. We know the video didn't work, the voice didn't work, the sketches didn't work. Appealing to the public to turn this guy in didn't work. None of those things worked. And what did they do instead? Nothing. And then just magically, like, oh, it's this guy. Okay.
They just sat in a really fancy new investigative center and fucked off for at least 2 years. Or a year, I guess.
I mean, that's something I've heard kind of speculated as far as like, a reason to not investigate, because it was financially beneficial. Like, not that they were protecting anybody, not that they were protecting, even Rick Allen or whoever did it. That hey, if you don't look, you won't find it, and then more money comes because that's the grift.
Well, it's not a terrible. I mean, money is usually the root of most. You follow the money, you're going to probably find the root of what is driving a lot of behavior, right? So, and I don't know what the answer is. I just know that this is a very fiscally lucrative case for certain.
I mean, it certainly was. And I think something that kind of resonated while you were doing your presentation, as far as, when there started to be some concern, is when somebody from the outside might be like
putting
an eye on what's going on.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, then you see something change. Like, okay, maybe the grift is over. So, like, let's do something and do anything. Do anything other than that. Don't allow that to happen. So it doesn't matter what it is, but do something.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because like when we first started, we kept saying like Flora or Delphi will be solved before the election. It will be, like, right before. I mean, I told Courtney that, like, how many times in the months leading up to it, and people thought we were crazy. There she is. Literally said, like, here's exactly what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. And it's not because we're, like, super smart or psychic. It's because you just look at patterns of behavior.
Oh, you're both super smart.
And psychic. You just look at patterns of behavior and you can kind of predict, like, what they're going to do. And their pattern of behavior is fuck around, deflect, blame, and then when under fire, pull some crazy, insane, like, Hail Mary bullshit, like stage a leak or make an arrest, preemptive, like to jump the gun and make an arrest when you shouldn't, or illegally ping someone's cell phone to get information. I mean, it's just they do crazy shit.
I mean, it does seem that way. I mean, it's hard to argue against, really.
Yeah. They get desperate and they act like fucking lunatics. Like, they just spiral. It's kind of weird. And it's kind of unsettling. Like, what? Of all the shit that's come out, like, you'd think that at this point they'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, they're still fighting tooth and nail to, like, keep shit from like, what else is there? Like, the stuff that has been uncovered in terms of the investigation has been so embarrassing and, like, shameful. But I still wonder, like, what else is there that we don't know? Because no way has all, like, the truth come out yet. There's still some shit that, and I've been
immersed. Well, I mean, the town does not have a good history with judges and scandals and stuff,
No, it doesn't. It's also cursed. Tecumseh's brother put a curse on Carroll County. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah.
Can you tell me that story?
Yes. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Battle of Tippecanoe, but it was one of the bloodiest battles. And there was a lot of betrayal and a lot of treason and treachery. And the prophet, I can't say his name, so I'm not going to try right now, but Tecumseh's brother, the prophet, put a curse on Carroll County. He also Tecumseh put a curse on all the presidents. Did you know about that curse?
No, I'm
every
woefully
president
on it.
Every president that was sworn in on a year that ended with 0 died. Or not everyone, but a lot of them. And so, like, for a while now, like, presidents, like, go and they do, like, a smudge ceremony, like, ritual ceremony, so that they don't die. True story. George W. Bush did it. Obama did it. I don't know if Trump did it. I don't know if Biden did it. Biden probably did it. I don't know. But they literally will go and they'll do, like, a ceremony ritual to pay their respects and not get fucking struck down by yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, lots of bloodshed, lots of Native American bloodshed in Indiana and the Trail of Tears.
I looked into some of it a little bit. I looked into, like, John Tipton a lot. And, I don't know. I'm gonna try to make weird connections sometimes, just going down rabbit holes and just looking at things, just seeing what's there,
Because I'm trying to make sense of, like, and then do you remember around the time I came into the Delphi case, started looking at YouTube, and one of the first channels that I saw, and this was, like, years delayed. Did you ever watch True Crime Jesus?
I've watched a fair amount of True Crime Jesus.
So
I liked his ads for the ice cream, man. It makes me want some, like, double chocolate ice cream right now.
I thought his stuff was very compelling, especially for at the time, like a case that there was nothing, like there was just nothing. So he was looking in, like, he looked at like the history of like Deer Creek, the water, all kinds of kind of like, not superstitious, not necessarily like, just like personifying the land and shit, you know? It was just like interesting to me because there's something wrong with this place. Like there's something terribly wrong with Carroll County. I just don't know.
See, I don't know. I've been to there and I think it's a nice place. I mean,
it's a very nice place. That doesn't mean it's not cursed.
I don't know. I don't say I'm not a very supernatural type of guy.
Just wear cats.
Exactly. I allow myself one crazy conspiracy theory and that's it.
But so that's your one, and
that's my one, yeah, because it was the most obscure.
But there's so little. But like, how do you get lost in like a weircat rabbit hole?
Well, that's it. I can't get that deep into it because there's nothing to.
That's no fun though. That defeats the purpose of having one thing.
I started whittling it down, and I really
that's
closed
what you
off.
Landed on.
Yeah, I mean, I used to look at like the UFO stuff a lot,
yeah, there's just so much.
I mean, there's a lot, but like everything I watched, eventually, just realized it was all bullshit, and that's how it is for like pretty much like anything that you go into, like any of these things. It's just like there's nothing substantial there. There's no evidence. Like if there's no evidence, I'm open to seeing evidence, but until I see some evidence, I'm gonna just be skeptical. So the electric werecats are real, Bigfoot, all that other shit, UFOs, aliens, like all that shit is not real until you provide some evidence. The only one that I'm gonna believe in is just the electric werecat because I think it's cool.
It is cool. I really liked your theory about Judge Gold being an electric werecat, but I'm sad that theory has been debunked. Although it sounds like we're not entirely sure about.
There's a lot more. There's also a wildcat refuge in Delphi.
So,
yeah, like,
Dan Doolin went and rescued.
Kind of a working theory of like an MK Ultra electric werecat like plan. Like maybe the real killer was an electric werecat.
Could be.
Right.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
They're doing some genetic engineering in this, like in this wildcat refuge. They've got a secret layer. I don't know. There's some weird cases that come up in Carroll County. There's a couple that broke into like a scientific like laboratory here pretty recently, and like I was wondering like where they broke into, and I think that it mostly like petered out a lot as far as like their cases got dismissed eventually. But like they're charged with felonies for doing whatever they did. I don't know where they broke into, but it was some serious stuff. And to see the MK Ultra stuff, MK Ultra is actually a real thing. So that's not a conspiracy.
Yeah, not all. Well, and it could be a conspiracy. It doesn't mean it's theory, right? There's a difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory. I believe that we are witnessing a conspiracy to convict Rick Allen, but that doesn't make it a conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, no, like I believe in real conspiracies, like real conspiracy, like it's a literal thing you can be charged with, conspiracy to commit murder, which it's probably. I suspect it may be very relevant in this case that there's a conspiracy to commit murder in some way, shape, or form. Block Fiend. DB.
Fiend, what do you think? I'm probably going to go to bed here.
That's fine.
How is your wilderness? Are you still in the wilderness?
No, I'm back in Indiana.
Well, you were not in the wilderness in Indiana.
Almost out in the wilderness. Like, I live by a nature preserve, and one time somebody dropped a dead body off in there.
At your house? Oh, in the nature preserve?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple hundred yards away, so like pretty close.
Yeah, that's pretty close. That's pretty scary. I live quite close to the Hudson River, so we get a lot of dead bodies around here.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, that was a first.
But
Not typical.
But
that
the
there's a dead
intentional
body.
act, somebody transported a dead body to where you are and left it there. That's unsettling.
Not ideal. Yeah, I think it was a drug overdose, and someone was just,
yeah,
like,
they just left
they
it.
just like left the county, left one county, and was like, well, this is a fine place.
Yeah.
And of course,
No one will find
it
this.
didn't work out for him. Like, that was a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with me, Fiend, and thanks for watching my presentation.
Of course.
Well, I hope everyone has a good night, and thank you everybody for your time. And the way that I exit lives is I just leave.
All right. I Irish exit all the time.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Bye.